Simultaneous Transmigration, unstoppable from the enemy multiverse. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author, we are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 126 Tokyo Branch's Hidden Ace? A week passed quickly, and the sister school exchange meeting between Tokyo Metropolitan Jiu-Jitsu High School and Kyoto Prefectural Jiu-Jitsu High School began. Because Yuta Otsutsu, who was just trying to make up the numbers last year, had completely defeated Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu High School in Kyoto, this year's exchange meeting would also be held in Tokyo. The 6 students participating in the exchange meeting from Kyoto Jiu-Jitsu High School included third-year students Aoi Tao, Kenki Kamo, and Momo Nishimiya, and second-year students Shinji Zenin, Kasumi Miwa, and Mikamaru. Aoi Tao was hailed as Kyoto Jiu-Jitsu High School's ace. The sister school exchange meeting typically pits 6 students from each school against each other. To secure victory, both the Tokyo and Kyoto branches typically send senior students. Because the Tokyo branch was short of players for last year's exchange meeting, Yuta Otsutsu, a freshman, was sent in. Unexpectedly, Otsutsu was so powerful that he single-handedly defeated the entire Kyoto branch. At this year's exchange competition, upon seeing that the Tokyo branch had sent only first-year students, Kyoto branch advisor and Yutaheim looked at Gajo Satoru with disapproval, saying, "You, Tokyo branch, are planning to field all freshmen this year? That's really underestimating us." Kyoto branch, and Yutaheim and Gajo Satoru were old acquaintances, serving as advisors for both schools, and naturally, she didn't want her students to be looked down upon. She wasn't surprised that Yuta Otsutsuki wasn't on the exchange roster. After all, he was a complete exception. If Tokyo branch had allowed him to compete, Kyoto branch would have been humiliated again. However, and Yutaheim had never anticipated that, despite Tokyo branch not having Yuta Otsutsuki on the field, they wouldn't even have a third-year student. Instead, they were using first-years to fill the gaps. Wasn't that a clear disparagement of Kyoto branch? If that's what Iwajio thinks, how about giving the Tokyo branch an extra player this year? After all, we have 7 sophomores and freshmen, and honestly, I was having a hard time figuring that out, seeing Gajo Satoru as playful, smiling face as she negotiated with her. Iwajio immediately became infuriated. Iwajio was actually Gajo Satoru as senior. She had been quite beautiful in her student days, but later, during a mission to exorcise a cursed spirit, she was injured and left with a facial scar. Because of this scar, she was constantly teased by the teenage Gajo Satoru, and she'd always disliked him. Every time they met, they'd exchange insults. The Kyoto branch was comprised of seniors, while the Tokyo branch was comprised of freshmen, so giving up one extra spot wasn't a big deal. But how could Iwajio agree to something that would allow Gajo Satoru to take advantage? The only person worth my attention at the Tokyo branch is Otsutsuki Yuta. As for the others, I don't care how many come. Before Irie Yuta could even open her mouth to refuse, Kyoto branch's ace, Aoi Tao, folded his arms and declared. Honestly, the main reason he agreed to participate in the sister school exchange was because of Otsutsuki. Upon learning that Otsutsuki wouldn't be attending, Aoi's interest had waned considerably. But since they were already here, if the Tokyo branch lacked quality, then it wasn't impossible to make up for it with quantity. Okay, then it's settled, Gajo Satoru agreed happily. Hey, don't make decisions for me. I haven't agreed yet. While Gajo Satoru and Iori Yuta were already at loggerheads, the Kyoto branch's principal, Rakugenji, a bald, white-bearded old man, glared at Itadori with a malicious look. Rakugenji is not only the principal of the Kyoto branch, but also a member of the Jiu-Jitsu elite. After learning that Ryomen Sukuna had awakened in Itadori's body, he has been among those advocating for Yuji Itadori's death. Upon hearing the report from the Tokyo Juvenile Detention Center, he was delighted to learn of Itadori's death, but he never expected that the Ryomen Sukuna vessel, reported dead, would reappear here. The sister school exchange meeting was originally expected to be a 6-6 tie, but ultimately, thanks to Gajo Satoru's persuasiveness and the pretext of wanting to give the young students a chance to develop, Rakugenji and Angelheim agreed to give the Tokyo branch a spot. To secure this spot, the Tokyo branch offered significant concessions. The rules of the exchange competition involved sending students from both schools into a forest filled with second and third level cursed spirits. The school that exorcised the most cursed spirits would win. Since the odds were 7 to 6, the Tokyo branch, with its numerical advantage, had to exorcise 30% more cursed spirits than the Kyoto branch to win. With only one more person, yet needing a 30% advantage to win, the Tokyo branch was at a disadvantage, no matter how you looked at it. Yet, despite this demanding condition, Gojo Sadara and Yogama Samachi hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Their decisiveness made Yuta feel like they were being tricked. After all, she knew Gojo Sadara all too well. If it meant losing out, he wouldn't have agreed so readily. This meant that the student the Tokyo branch had forced into the exchange meeting was incredibly talented, even capable enough to afford the cost offered by the Tokyo branch. The question then became, who was the last student from the Tokyo branch? As sister schools, Yuta knew almost all of the sophomores and juniors at the Tokyo branch, aside from this year's freshmen. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Teacher Nazco had some last-minute work to do, so after I finished, I realized I'd forgotten the time. Just as Ange was curious about who would be the last student from the Tokyo branch to attend the exchange meeting, a voice suddenly appeared behind them. When a sunny young man with black hair, his hands in his pockets, and an apologetic look on his face, greeted the Tokyo branch and the others, Ange, Rakugenji, and Todaowi were all stunned. Standing next to Todaowi, Zen and Shinji looked at the solemn Ange and the excited Todaowi with a puzzled expression and said, "What? Apart from being a little sunny and handsome, he doesn't look like anything special." However, when Shinji heard what she said, Todaowi beside her shook her head and said, "No, you underestimated him. Could you have noticed he was nearby before he spoke?" Chapter 127 The exchange meeting between the two schools begins. After Todaowi's warning, Mai and the others at the Kyoto branch finally revealed a look of astonishment. It might be a bit of an exaggeration, but if he hadn't made a sound and had attacked us directly, at such close range, would you have had enough confidence to survive? Todaowi's words immediately made the Kyoto branch's faces turn pale. Clearly, they were already imagining the sudden appearance of Seiya, and the corresponding scenario was already in their minds. Maybe his technique is something like concealing his presence. After all, it's not just us, even Agumi-sensei and Rakugenji principal didn't notice his approach just now, said Zen and Maki's twin sister, the shoulder-length-haired Mai, still stubbornly. Of course, that's possible, but if this isn't a technique, but his own strength, then he might be a sorcerer as powerful as Agumi-sensei and the others. Seeing Seiya's sudden arrival, Todaowi began to get excited. He had originally thought that, aside from Yuta Otsutsuki, the Tokyo branch wouldn't have a single capable fighter. But he hadn't expected the branch to surprise him so quickly. Todaowi could tell at a glance whether Seiya was a formidable force. Although he didn't radiate particularly powerful cursed energy, his beastly agility gave him the impression that this new Tokyo branch student was quite capable. In fact, it wasn't just Todaowi. Rakugenji and Iwata also sensed Seiya's strength. Compared to Todaowi's intuition, their judgment was based more on experience. Iwata also believed that Gojo Sadara's willingness to offer such a disadvantageous position was ultimately due to the strength of their class as freshmen. Megumi Fushiguro had been taught by Gojo Sadara since childhood, and Iwata knew him. Itadori, the vessel of Ryomen Sukuna, was also renowned, but it was said that even as a vessel, Itadori himself was a complete novice until recently. As for Kujisuke and Seiya, the former could see through everything at a glance, even in front of a seasoned sorcerer like her. On the other hand, Seiya, who arrived later, was completely unpredictable to Irie, so it was clear who the Tokyo branch was banking on. Your luck is as good as ever. This is another talented child you've abducted from that sorcery family. It's no secret in the sorcery world that Megumi Fushiguro was from the Zenin family. Irie's words clearly implied that Seiya, like other prodigies like Megumi Fushiguro, was abducted from some sorcery family by Gojo Sadara and brought to the Tokyo branch. Teacher, I'm not from any sorcery family. I was an ordinary high school student at Tsujizawa High School in Sendai, Miyagi Prefecture. Seiya, who was about to introduce himself, was stopped mid-sentence by Gojo Sadara behind him. Because she was a step behind, when Seiya mentioned his region of origin, and Yuta looked at Gojo Sadara with a sullen expression. Well, you're trying to steal my girl. The world of sorcery is skeptical. The famous sorcery families are no exception. Generally, wild sorcerers who awaken their cursed powers tend to stick together to avoid being dominated by a single family. This is why there's a relationship between seniors and juniors. Interpersonal relationships are crucial in any field, even within the world of sorcery. Generally, sorcerers who awaken their cursed powers in a particular region are mentored by sorcerers from that region. And in Yuta's hometown is Sendai City. So, theoretically, Seiya should be in Yuta's junior, and if he wants to enroll, he should go to the Kyoto Prefectural Sorcery High School. Ahohahoha, this is all coincidence. It's because I met Seiya first. And he's already enrolled at Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu High School, even becoming a student of Irishoko, so you should just give up. Seeing Gojo Satoru laughing, Iwata felt furious, but there was nothing she could do now. However, since the opponent was just a freshman, even if he was a genius like Megumi Fushiguro, Iwata still felt they had a sure win in this exchange. After all, if Otsutsuki Yuta didn't play, Tao Aoi would have been the strongest young sorcerer of either school. During last year's 100 Demons Night Parade, Tao Aoi single-handedly slew a special grade curse spirit and 5 first-grade curse spirits. With Tao Aoi's strength, no one among the younger generation of either school, aside from Otsutsuki Yuta, could defeat him. Regardless of the outcome of this exchange meeting, I hope you can kill Yuji Itadori, the container of Ryomen Sukuna. I believe you are all aware of the threat posed by Ryomen Sukuna. The people from Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu High School naively planned to use the container to destroy Ryomen Sukuna's fingers. But so far, Yuji Itadori, as the container, has had 2 runaway accidents, which shows that he is full of instability. For the sake of the entire jutsu world, it is our duty as sorcerers to eliminate him as soon as possible. Hearing what Rakugenji said, the students of the Kyoto branch looked embarrassed, but because the other party was the principal, they could only obey the order. Meanwhile, Tao Aoi remained stubbornly obstinate, saying, "Whatever you want to do is your own business, but don't involve me. My target is that freshman named Seiya from the Tokyo branch. If anyone stands in my way, I'll take him down too." Watching Tao Aoi walk away with a sullen expression, Rakugenji's face was itched with rage. These young and talented sorcerers were truly difficult to discipline. Tao Aoi and Gojo Satoru were like this. He wondered what kind of person Seiya was. Rakugenji wasn't surprised that Tao Aoi was unwilling to participate in the hunt for Itadori Yuji, but the others were likely strong enough. As for Tao Aoi's attack on the other Tokyo branch students, she was indirectly helping them. Soon after the battle meeting, the competition between the Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu High School and the Kyoto Jiu-Jitsu High School began. Because Otsutsuki Yuta single-handedly destroyed the entire Kyoto branch at the previous exchange meeting, Tao Aoi wanted to retaliate this time, single-handedly destroying the entire Tokyo branch. That went in Seiya, let's fight a few moves and see what you're made of. Upon seeing Seiya and his group, Tao Aoi felt that a one-on-one battle against 7 was unrealistic, so he quickly decided to defeat Seiya, who interested him the most, first, and then deal with the others. As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't care whether Seiya agreed or not, and rushed forward, his figure already in front of Seiya. Chapter 128. This winter in Shangzai is also a monster. Boom. Tao Aoi was tall and powerful, yet possessed astonishing speed. Seiya had always believed that, in terms of sheer physical prowess, Itadori was the strongest. But when Seiya, his arms crossed in front of him, took Tao Aoi's punch head-on, he realized that he was clearly just as monstrous as Itadori. Without resorting to cursed energy, the pure force of his body sent Seiya back 2 steps with a single blow. Seiya, despite taking Tao Aoi's punch head-on, didn't passively take the blow. Instead, he used his protective hands to counterattack and, with an overhand throw, grabbed Tao Aoi's arm, throwing his massive body forward. "Maki-senpai, you guys go ahead. I'll handle this guy." Upon hearing Seiya's words, Maki and the others didn't object. They still didn't know that the Kyoto branch's true target was Itadori. Tao Aoi was the strongest third-year student of the Kyoto branch, and a complete monster. If they fought him alone, none of them could be sure of defeating him. Similarly, Seiya had already fully demonstrated his prowess during the entrance exam. If someone at the Tokyo branch had to stand up to the monster that was Tao Aoi, Seiya was undoubtedly the best person. Maki and the others saw Seiya as a monster of the same ilk. Tao Aoi, violently thrown by Seiya, paid no heed to the retreating Zen and Maki and the others. Instead, she glared at Seiya with a fierce look of fighting spirit, saying, "My feeling was right. You're not the type to hide behind your head and show your tail." Previously, Zen and Shinji and the others had assumed that Seiya's ability to quietly appear around them was due to his magical abilities. But this brief exchange alone convinced Cao Daoui that Seiya was no one who hid in the shadows. With his reaction speed and skill, it was clear that he was a fellow of her own. Thump! Seiya's kick shattered the ground beneath his feet, and his body, like an arrow shot from a bowstring, instantly caught up to Cao Daoui, who had been thrown over his shoulder. Seeing Seiya's body instantly launched at him, Cao Daoui retaliated with a fierce punch. Soon, their arms were like afterimages, constantly colliding in midair. Alright, damn, fists like a torrential rain, forming high-speed afterimages, repeatedly collided between the two, accompanied by bursts of sonic booms. From the air to the ground, a violent air current erupted around them, cracking the surrounding ground. Finally, as Seiya's fist struck Cao Daoi's face, the opponent's fist also hit Seiya's abdomen, sending both of them flying backwards almost simultaneously. After being punched in the stomach, Seiya's feet plowed two parallel furrows several dozen meters long into the ground. As for Cao Daoui, whose face was struck by Seiya's blow, her body spun backwards through the air at high speed, ultimately crashing into a tree two men could hug. The Kyoto branch, soaring on a broom, watched the aerial surveillance from above as Seiya and Cao Daoui battled, and was visibly stunned. As a fellow Kyoto third-year student, no one knew better than her the depths of Cao Daoi's physical prowess. While Cao Daoi's techniques weren't physical, hand-to-hand combat was his daily mode of combat. Honestly, even without using techniques, if they relied solely on physical prowess, the combined strength of the other Kyoto branch students might not be enough to defeat Cao Daoui. Yet, Cao Daoui had just managed to force a 50-50 fight against a first-year student from the Tokyo branch. You have to remember, Cao Daoui is a third-year student, while the other student is a freshman who just enrolled this year. Doesn't this mean that the other student is even more monstrous than Cao Daoui? Upon learning this, Nishimiya Momo quickly used her phone to post the video she had just captured to the Kyoto branch's chat group. Although she was a sorcerer, this was still modern society, and technology was sometimes more convenient than magic. Upon seeing Nishimiya Momo's video, the other students at the Kyoto branch undoubtedly shared the same thought: this guy named Winrin Seiya was a monster. It was the first time they had seen a student capable of fighting Cao Daoui with bare hands. Regardless of Seiya's technique, his incredible physical prowess was enough for the Kyoto branch students to label him a dangerous target. He's only a first year, yet he possesses such physical prowess, and can evenly match Cao Daoui. Anjaheim, who was also in the chat group, had also seen the video Nishimiya Momo had posted, and her expression as she looked at Gojo Sadara grew even more grim. Such a promising talent should have been a student at their Kyoto branch, but now that bastard Gojo Sadara has gotten the upper hand. Such astonishing physical prowess and combat skills are indeed rare, but if they use cursed energy, this child will be no match for Cao Daoui. Especially Cao Daoi's technique, Unjust Game, is the nemesis of this type of sorcerer. With this child's strength, I'm afraid he won't be able to stop Cao Daoui. As if displeased with Gojo Sadara's smugness, Anjaheim couldn't help but criticize him. Physical prowess, no matter how strong, is ultimately only a supporting factor in sorcery. Battles between sorcerers rely more on their own cursed energy and techniques. Cao Daoi's strength lies not only in her physical prowess, her cursed energy, techniques, and even her control and application of cursed energy are exceptional among her peers. In short, Iwaka believed that while Seiya possessed exceptional talent, he had only recently entered the Jiu-Jitsu high school. While his physical abilities might rival Cao Daoi's, his cursed power and techniques were undoubtedly inferior to those of the renowned master. No, Iwaka, you're underestimating Seiya. The physical abilities you've seen so far are merely the tip of the iceberg of his capabilities. Honestly, even I'm not sure of his true limits, as his growth rate is truly astonishing. So astonishing that every time I see him, he seems to have grown in the space of months or even years. Let me put it this way, Seiya has battled Ryomen Sukuna twice, and each time, Ryomen Sukuna fought him with the intent to kill him. Yet, in the end, he managed to survive, and Ryomen Sukuna was unable to gain any advantage over him. I think you all understand the significance of this outcome, right? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, The Terribly Strong Seiya, The Shocked Kyoto Branch. Fought Ryomen Sukuna twice and survived. Gojo Satoru's words truly shock Angeheim and Rakugenji. Surviving a battle with someone might not sound like a big deal, but it depends on who you're fighting. Ryomen Sukuna was the Curse King from 1,000 years ago. There were countless powerful sorcerers who challenged him during the heyday of sorcery, but how many could survive? Not to mention fighting him twice. If Gojo Satoru hadn't known he wouldn't lie about such things, Angeheim would have even thought he was bragging. Even if Ryomen Sukuna isn't as powerful now as he was in his heyday, his strength isn't comparable to that of an ordinary special-grade cursed spirit. For a newly enrolled sorcerer to escape Ryomen Sukuna's clutches twice, that's something he could brag about for the rest of his life in the world of sorcery. That's just fooling a little brat, and you're trying to deceive me. You're trying so hard to praise this little brat, just to use it as an excuse to say Ryomen Sukuna isn't a big threat right now, so I and the others can change our minds. Compared to Angeheim, who had a bad relationship with Gojo Satoru but knew him well, Rakugenji scoffed at Gojo Satoru's words, even dismissing them as gossip. He implied that even a little brat could repeatedly toy with Ryomen Sukuna, while their high-ranking sorcerers were so terrified of Itadori Yuji, which was a bit ridiculous. However, just as Rakugenji was mocking Gojo Satoru, Nishimiya Momo posted another video to the group chat, which immediately silenced everyone present. In the video, Aoi Todao, compared to his earlier skits, was now fully serious, even using cursed energy. Seiya, fighting against him, also used cursed energy to counter his attack. The intensity of the fight intensified due to the use of cursed energy. As the two engaged in fist-to-fist combat, each time their cursed energy-coated fists collided in mid-air, large cracks appeared on the ground. The massive rocks and surrounding trees were rendered as fragile as tofu and building blocks in the ferocious hand-to-hand combat. In the video, Seiya's shirt shattered in the intense hand-to-hand combat, revealing his streamlined, muscular torso. Compared to Todao's burly build, Seiya was noticeably thinner, but this physical disadvantage was completely unnoticed during the battle. Todao's mastery of cursed energy was immense. Unlike most sorcerers who treated their energy as a force within their bodies, Todao had already treated it as natural as their blood and breath. Honestly, Seiya's mastery of cursed energy was indeed inferior to Todao's. After all, the other sorcerer had been a sorcerer for who knows how long, while Seiya had only been awakening and using it for a short time. However, lacking proficiency can be compensated for through skill, a feat far beyond the reach of Seiya, who shares power systems from multiple worlds. While Todao utilizes cursed energy as naturally as breathing, Seiya's use of it is truly extraordinary. He releases cursed energy through a forced attack, unleashing an internal energy effect that penetrates outer defenses and strikes the opponent's internal organs. Seiya calls this the Bangquan. He concentrates cursed energy on a single point, detonating it upon impact with his fist, dealing massive damage and a critical strike. Seiya calls this the Gongquan. He directs cursed energy internally, stimulating body cells and temporarily increasing speed, making his attacks even more powerful. Seiya calls this the Sun Quan. Besides the various cursed energy techniques, the video concludes with Seiya unsheathing a long, cursed sword and, with a single burst of cursed energy, sends Todao, who shields herself with her hands, flying several kilometers away. The sheer force of that cursed slash not only carved a furrow dozens of meters long into the ground before striking Todao, but also severed the surrounding trees, even from the mere impact of the sword's energy. Angeheim and Rakugenji were unaware of Todao's current condition, having been sent flying by the sword in the video. However, after witnessing the battle, Angeheim could no longer call Seiya a rookie. The Tokyo branch was simply overwhelmed with luck. The second year had the unconventional Yuta Otsutsuki, and now the first year had the renowned Seiya. Just from the recent battle, it was clear that Gojo Satoru had previously stated that this freshman, Seiya, had survived Ryomen Sukuna twice, not through sheer luck, but through sheer strength. Witnessing Seiya's prowess, the old man Rakugenji clenched his fists with a grim expression. Given the strength of the Tokyo branch's students, Could he still successfully complete the mission he had assigned to the Kyoto branch? In fact, after witnessing Seiya's prowess, the students at the Kyoto branch began to hesitate about continuing their mission, following Principal Rakugenji's orders. They had initially assumed that the Tokyo branch, without Yuta Otsutsuki, would be no match for their Kyoto counterparts, and that killing Yuji Itadori would be a piece of cake. But no one had anticipated the sheer ferocity of the Tokyo branch's freshmen. As Aoi Todao was slashed back by Seiya's sword, a laser-like beam erupted from the forest, striking Seiya's back. However, as if anticipating this surprise attack, Seiya reached out with a single hand and instantly shattered the incoming large purification cannon from Machinemeru. As Seiya shattered Machinemeru's large purification cannon with his bare hands, Kasumi Miwa, with flowing blue hair and a cursed longsword in hand, rushed in front of Seiya. Nuyen Rai's simple domain, draw the blade. However, facing Kasumi Miwa's swordsmanship, Seiya easily parried it with his other hand's long sword. Excellent swordsmanship, but too many unnecessary movements. And even with the domain enhancement, the power is a bit disappointing. Looking at her sword, completely unable to advance, and Seiya's nonchalant comments, Kasumi Miwa now clearly felt a huge gap between herself and her opponent. You guys go and complete your mission first, we'll stop him. Seeing Kasumi Miwa engaged in battle with Seiya, Machinemeru flew forward without hesitation to help, and spoke to the others, including Zen and Mai. According to Nishimiya Momo, who was watching from above, the Tokyo branch had already split up to exorcise more cursed spirits. Even if he and Kasumi Miwa stayed behind to stop Seiya, the rest of the Kyoto branch should be more than enough to deal with Ryaman Sukuna's vessel. After all, it's impossible for every new student at the Tokyo branch to be a monster like Seiya, right? Chapter 131 Man fights the entire Kyoto branch. Boom. Just as Makameru finished his words, a figure unceremoniously lifted him up and tossed him aside. The attacker was none other than Tadao Aoi, who had been sent flying by Seiya's cursed slash earlier. Tadao Aoi looked more disheveled than before, his shirtless torso pierced by a deep cut on his chest, which was still bleeding. If Tadao Aoi hadn't used his technique, on Just Game, to switch positions with the cursed tools he had initially placed nearby, he would likely be unable to get up. While the cut on his chest looked terrifying, it was actually merely the result of a sword attack, barely scratching the surface. Aoi Tadao's technique, on Just Game, swaps the positions of two objects possessing a certain amount of cursed energy within the technique's range. The technique is activated by clapping his hands. While Tadao may appear reckless, he is in reality a very thoughtful and analytical sorcerer. Because Unjust Game can only be activated against beings possessing cursed energy, to avoid any unforeseen consequences, he placed some low-level cursed tools nearby as targets before deciding to challenge the entire Tokyo branch alone. Tadao Aoi was intrigued by Seiya's prowess, and he decided to fight him with all his might. However, Makameru and the others suddenly appeared to disrupt the situation, leaving Tadao Aoi quite displeased. You want to kill Ryaman Sukuna's vessel? That's yours, but this Wenrin Seiya is my match. If you interfere with our fight without permission, don't blame me for letting our classmates know. Faced with Tadao Aoi's reckless behavior, the Kyoto branch students dared not speak out, but they knew Tadao Aoi's character well. If she got upset, she'd really let her temper run wild. So, your target is Yuji too. If that's the case, then I won't let you go so easily. Shikigami summoning, Azure Dragon, Zinyu Fox. Shikigami summoning, Suzaku, Zangyulu. Shikigami summoning, White Tiger, Biyuwu. Shikigami summoning, Black Tortoise, Wei Yuan. Everyone at the Kyoto branch was stunned when Seiya, with his fingers pinching, summoned 4 Shikigami at once. They had never dreamed that Seiya's technique could actually summon Shikigami. And that he was a powerful Shikigami-type sorcerer capable of summoning and controlling 4 Shikigami at once. Typically, sorcerers who rely on Shikigami for combat would have masters with relatively average physical abilities. After all, the Shikigami user is merely a supporting role, while the summoned Shikigami are the main force. But what the hell is going on with Seiya? Previously, his physical abilities were enough to overpower Tadao Aoi, and his swordsmanship could even easily withstand Kasumi Miwa's domain blade drawing technique. Such physical abilities and martial arts skills are truly exceptional, even among sorcerers primarily relying on physical prowess. Yet, his true skill is actually the summoning of Shikigami. As the Shikigami was summoned, Zangyulu let out a deer cry, then used its horns to charge into Kasumi Miwa, who is not far away. Seeing Zhang Yulu charging head-on, Kasumi Miwa, surprised by the deer-like Shikigami's speed, quickly raised her long sword for defense. Ding! The moment Zhang Yulu's antlers collided with Sanrin Kasumi's long sword, Sanrin Kasumi, wielding her sword with both hands, clearly sensed not only Zhang Yulu's incredible speed but also her immense strength. Sparks flew from the friction between the sword and the antlers, and Sanrin Kasumi, clearly outmatched in strength, was pushed back by Zhang Yulu until her back slammed into a tree, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood from the impact. Damn it! Great Purification Cannon! Seeing his beloved injured, the far superior puppeteer, Jiganmaru, furious, commanded the puppet to open its palm and unleash a cursed energy cannon at Zhang Yulu. However, before Jiganmaru's Great Purification Cannon could reach Zhang Yulu, Bu suddenly flew in front of Zhang Yulu and, facing the incoming Great Purification Cannon, opened its mouth, let out a cry, and unleashed a beam of cursed energy. At the same time, upon seeing Nishimiya Tao flying on a broomstick, Wei Yuan flapped her wings and soared into the sky. Seeing the Shikigami flying towards her, Nishimiya Tao wanted to use her Fusang Sao technique, but Wei Yuan's flying speed was incredible. Nishimiya Tao had just taken out her spell tool, but before she could use the technique, Wei Yuan had already knocked her out of the air. Elsewhere, Kamo Kenki and Zenin Mai also took out their bows and arrows and spell tool revolvers and began to attack the last Heart Moon Fox. However, to their surprise, the fox with a tail like a crescent moon was not only incredibly agile and swift, but when it looked at them, Kamo Kenki and Zenin Mai felt as if their hearts were being seen through. It's not an illusion. This fox Shikigami truly possesses the ability to read minds. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to predict our attack locations so often. Kamo Kenji fired several arrows in quick succession, and upon seeing the sly, human-like smile on Heart Moon Fox's face, he realized its power. And when he saw Seiya single-handedly stop everyone at the Kyoto branch, himself included, Tao Aoi's gaze towards Seiya suddenly changed. Originally, Tao Aoi had planned to defeat everyone at the Tokyo branch single-handedly, but now the situation seemed to have reversed. Tao Aoi had seen Shikigami-like sorcerers before. He had even recently battled Megumi Fushiguro and his animal friends. But Tao Aoi was certain that compared to the Shikigami summoned by Seiya, those summoned by Megumi Fushiguro were simply not on the same level. In the lounge for teachers and leaders from both schools, when Gajo Satura's projection of the unlimited technique was revealed, Unyuta and Rakugenji's expressions became extremely unnatural. Last year, Otsutsuki Yuta from the Tokyo branch had defeated their Kyoto branch, but this year, they hadn't expected another unforeseen figure, Seiya. While Seiya's current prowess wasn't as impressive as Yuta's, anyone with a discerning eye could clearly see that he possessed the potential to become a top-tier sorcerer. Chapter 131 The Invasion of the Curse High School. How long has Otsutsu Yuta been practicing sorcery? How long has Winner and Seiya been practicing sorcery? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Seiya has immense potential for growth. Even if he doesn't surpass Otsutsu Yuta in time, he's definitely one of the most promising candidates to become a top-grade sorcerer. Gajo Satura, I think this child should still be taught by our Kyoto branch. After all, the child and I are both from Sendai City, so I should be the one to carefully mentor him. Seiya's previous display of talent, while considered a genius, was ultimately snatched away by Gajo Satura, a notorious rogue in the world of sorcery. Irie could only consider herself unlucky. But now, Seiya's renewed display of sorcerer talent has made Irie feel she should fight tooth and nail for him. While Gajo Satura is undoubtedly the industry's top sorcerer, Irie naturally shakes her head in dismay at his skill and commitment as a teacher. Of course, this isn't to say Gajo Satura lacks responsibility or simply lets his students run wild. Ultimately, the main reason is that Gajo Satura, as a special grade sorcerer, is too busy. Angerheim believes Seiya's talent and abilities are exceptional, and with more guidance, he'll undoubtedly become a special grade sorcerer. Leaving him to his own devices would be a waste of his potential. As a longtime acquaintance from their youth, Gajo Satura naturally knew that Angerheim's words were devoid of ill intention. So, he nonchalantly said, "Don't worry about that, Seiya has already accepted Irie Shoko as his disciple. Compared to me, you know Shoko's character. Since she's accepted Seiya as her disciple, she's sure to be dedicated and responsible." The people present naturally knew who Irie Shoko was. After all, She was known as the treasure of the academy. You said Naoko is his teacher? So, he also knows how to use the reversal technique, and Yutaheim was completely stunned. In her mind, Seiya was immediately categorized as a monster on par with Gojo Satoru and Otsutsuki Yuta. I didn't know that. After all, he's only been studying with Naoko for a week. But Naoko, with her personality, seems incredibly pleased with Seiya. I rarely see her gushing with praise for someone. Indeed, a week later, Seiya successfully passed Iori Naoko's assessment and officially became her apprentice. During this time, Iori Naoko was astonished by Seiya's talent and abilities, declaring him a prodigy comparable to Gojo Satoru. The reversal technique is an extremely difficult technique, but Seiya had mastered it in just a week, even applying it to other techniques. In the process, he developed his own cursed energy techniques, including the breaking fist, steel fist, and swift fist. Talent and potential are not the only thing. Seiya, for a teenager, possesses truly impeccable social skills. Frequent night shifts have left Iori Shoko's daily life somewhat chaotic for a woman. As her only student, Seiya not only brews coffee for her and assists her with whatever tasks he can during her time at the studio, but also meticulously cares for her daily needs. In short, Iori Shoko, after just over a week, already feels she can't live without Seiya's care. This explains why Seiya always arrives late for sister school exchange meetings. With Seiya as her perfect assistant, Iori Shoko even feels her job is much easier. Now, even if Gojo Satoru, her former classmate, were to compete for her position, let alone in Yuta from the Kyoto branch, Iori Shoko would never compromise. Are you kidding? Where can I find such a caring disciple who is both obedient and capable, possessing both talent and potential? However, just as Seiya was engaged in a fierce battle with the Kyoto branch, and Iwako was still lamenting that such a talented Seiya wasn't a student at their Kyoto branch, a massive barrier suddenly descended from the sky like a curtain, covering the area where Seiya and the others were fighting. The sudden scene stunned both the students trapped within the barrier and the teachers confined outside. The special grade curse spirit master, who had recently encountered Itadori, and a human curse caster named Hibiya Tanzo, appeared together on the roof of the Jiu-Jitsu high school, sneering at the descending curtain. Concerned for the safety of the students within the barrier, the principals of both schools, Yoga Masamichi and Rakugenji, along with the advisory teachers Gojo Satoru and Iwaka, naturally rushed to the barrier's location. As a high school dedicated to training the next generation of sorcerers, it naturally had adequate security measures in place. However, the fact that the enemy had been able to infiltrate and set up such a barrier without a care in the world could only mean that there was a traitor among them. Of course, whoever the traitor was wasn't the most important thing right now. The safety of the students within the barrier was paramount. The young generation of both schools were within the barrier, they were the future of the entire sorcery world. The enemy's massive display clearly targeted them. Ding-ling-ling-ling, just as Gojo Satoru and the others were about to reach the barrier, his phone suddenly rang in his pocket. He initially considered ignoring it, believing that the student's safety was more important than anything else. However, upon realizing it was Seiya, he paused for a moment before answering the call. Seiya, how's the situation over there? As Gojo Satoru answered the call, the others had already arrived at the barrier. He had originally intended to force his way inside, but he discovered that the barrier that Anjaheim and Rakugenji had been able to break through was a strong barrier against him. Clearly, the barrier's creator had sacrificed its ability to block others, increasing its defenses only against Gojo Satoru, precisely to stop him. Inside the barrier came a special grade curse spirit with a white body and a tree branch for an eye. The opponent's strength is not weak, but to be honest, I think the development of this matter is a bit strange. Hearing Seiya's words, Gojo Satoru was obviously stunned for a moment, then he remembered that Seiya had a mature mind far beyond his appearance, so after taking another look at Anjaheim and the old man from Legan Temple, he couldn't help but ask directly, "What do you think is strange?" As for Seiya on the other end of the phone, after pondering for a while, he said, "Although we don't know who the enemy who invaded the Jiu-Jitsu high school is, if they are targeting the students of the Jiu-Jitsu high school, don't you think that sending only a special grade curse spirit to attack us is a little insufficient?" Chapter 132 Jiro Suguru appears, and his buddy fights with bayonets. While not as rare and powerful as a special grade sorcerer, a special grade curse spirit is still a top-tier cursed spirit. Seiya even complained that they only had one special grade curse spirit. But to be fair, The students at both schools are now mostly at the level of quasi first grade and second grade sorcerers. Tao Aoi and Seiya, in particular, are capable of exorcising special grade cursed spirits. If the intruders at Jujutsu High School truly wanted to eliminate the students from both schools, it would be difficult to do so with just one special grade cursed spirit. Were they lacking in combat power? Gojo Sadara didn't believe that. After all, they were capable of invading the Jujutsu High School's barrier, even setting up a veil specifically targeting them. This clearly suggests that the cursed spirits, or cursed masters, who invaded the Jujutsu High School were not only a team, but also highly intelligent individuals. The other side had gone to great lengths to keep Gojo Sadara outside the barrier, seemingly intent on annihilating all the students at Jujutsu High School, only to then send a special grade cursed spirit to attack Seiya and his group. This in itself was illogical. Seiya, on the other side of the phone, saw Gojo Sadara fall silent after hearing his words, and realized that his words had already made Gojo aware of something amiss. I believe the special grade cursed spirit that invaded Jujutsu High School is attacking us now simply to confuse the public. Their true target might not even be us. Now that we know of the special grade cursed spirit's invasion and attack on students from both schools, everyone's attention, including you, Gojo-sensei, has been drawn to this place. And if this special grade cursed spirit has other accomplices, then the now unguarded Jujutsu High School would be like a backyard to them, wouldn't it? Seiya's words came out of the microphone again, and this time even Irie Udaha and Rakugenji, who were also listening, were stunned. Thanks to Seiya's warning, Gojo Sadara and his companions suddenly realized that if the special grade cursed spirits invading the Jujutsu High School truly had other targets, then they could only target the school's warehouse for special grade cursed items. Besides Ryomen Sukuna's finger, the cursed high-level cursed item warehouse also contained special grade cursed items like the Curse Embryo 9-phase diagram. Ever since his last encounter with the special grade cursed spirits, the leader and the true man, Gojo Sadara knew that Yuji, Ryomen Sukuna's vessel, was also being targeted. While Gojo Sadara wasn't sure what their intentions were for Yuji, the mention of Ryomen Sukuna immediately reminded him of their purpose. Oh no. Their real target might be the other Ryomen Sukuna fingers stored in the Jujutsu High School's warehouse. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Gojo Sadara turned and prepared to head for the school's cursed item warehouse. Just as he was about to make his move, a young man with a front ponytail and a seemingly crazed personality, and a bald man wielding a hammer, suddenly blocked Gojo Sadara's path. What a hassle. Which brat is meddling in our affairs, forcing us to do all this unnecessary work? Neither the ponytailed man nor the bald man exuded the aura of a cursed spirit, indicating they were curse casters. From their fragmentary conversations, it was clear that Seiya and Gojo Sadara were correct. The enemy's invasion wasn't targeting the students, but the Ryomen Sukuna fingers in the school's collection. Gojo Sadara, leave these two to us. You hurried to the cursed storage, seeing Shijin Haruta, armed with a cursed sword, and Hibiya Tanzo, armed with a sledgehammer, and Yuta and Rakugenji took the initiative to stop the enemy. The current situation wasn't the time to dwell on personal conflicts. If Ryomen Sukuna's fingers fell into the hands of those special grade cursed spirits, the consequences would be disastrous. Just as Gojo Sadara was about to act, two figures suddenly appeared, blocking his path. One was the special grade cursed spirit, Ruhu, who Gojo Sadara had recently beaten to pulp, and the other was a dark-haired man in monk's attire. The former would have been fine, but the sight of the dark-haired man in monk's attire caused a wave of intense emotion to cross Gojo Sadara's face. The reason for this was that the figure standing in his way, standing beside the special grade cursed spirit, was none other than Gojo Sadara's former best friend and a former classmate of his and Irie Nozomi's, Suguru Jito. Sadara, it's been a while since we last met. You're still the same as before. Looking at Jiro before him, Gojo Sadara's face was solemn. Although the other person's tone and aura were identical to the Jiro he knew, Gojo Sadara knew full well that the man before him was no longer his former friend. Because Jiro Suguru was dead, killed by him and Yuta Otsutsuki. Once his best friend, Jito Suguru's single-minded pursuit of eradicating the curse led him astray, ultimately harming 112 ordinary people, leaving the Jujutsu High School, and seizing the Banker E-Cult, a curse-casting organization. The curse stems from human negativity, and there are only two ways to completely eradicate it. One is to make everyone a curse caster, as curse casters can transform their emotions into cursed energy. However, This approach is obviously unrealistic, as only a few possess the talent. Another option is to eliminate the existence of only curse casters in this world, leaving ordinary humans. Apparently, having witnessed the ugliness of humanity, Jito Suguru ultimately chose the second approach to eradicate the curse. Before he defected from the Jujutsu High School, he was defeated by Gojo Satoru once, but Gojo Satoru, out of friendship, was unable to kill him. Years later, Jito Suguru completely mastered the Tauhen cult and launched the 100 Demons Night Parade last year, but was ultimately executed by him and Yuta Otsutsukatsu. Because he was the one who carried out the murder, Gojo Satoru was certain his friend was dead. But now Jito Suguru has reappeared before him, leaving only one possibility: his friend's body has been desecrated by someone else. Naturally, Gojo Satoru was furious at the use of his former friend's body. Without a word, he removed the black bandage from his eyes, revealing his own eyes, as clear as blue crystal. Seeing this, Rukutsu, who had been beaten and nearly killed by Gojo Satoru before, showed a hint of uneasiness on his face. He looked at Jito Suguru beside him and said, "I've seen his domain. It's a nearly invincible technique. Are you sure?" In response to Rukutsu's question, Jito Suguru shook his head and said, "Unless Ryomen Sukuna is fully resurrected, no one in the current world of curses can defeat him. But even if I can't beat him, I'm one of the people who know him best." Chapter 133: A Fierce Battle with the Special Grade Curse Spirit Hanami. Gojo Satoru confronted Jito Suguru's buddies, and the two sides engaged in a fierce battle. Within the barrier, Seiya and his team's battle also reached a fever pitch. Hanamikato was a special grade curse spirit, and not just any special grade curse spirit, but one born from humanity's fear of the forest. Simply put, Hanamikato was one of those cursed spirits born from humanity's reverence for nature. With such prestige, even among the many cursed spirits, Hanamikato was undoubtedly a top-tier one. According to Jito Suguru's plan, without Otsutsuki Yuta, no one at the two Jujutsu High School branches would have been a match for Hanamikato. Even though Aoi Todao had a record of exorcising special-grade curse spirits, special-grade curse spirits were still categorized into different levels. Those with fragile domains, or even those unable to use them, were utterly useless compared to a top-tier special-grade curse spirit like Hanamikato. Even if Hanamikato couldn't wipe out all the students from both schools, she would certainly inflict casualties, and the attention of the Jujutsu High School's experts would undoubtedly be drawn. The barrier they had set up blocked Gojo Satoru, and even with the other first-level sorcerers, Hanamikato would have been able to escape unscathed if she attempted to. However, what Suguru Jito and his team never expected was the arrival of a formidable new student at the Tokyo branch this year. Not only had he noticed a flaw in their plan from the start, but he was now single-handedly engaging Hanamikato, a special-grade curse spirit, in a fierce duel. While Seiya was speaking to Gojo Satoru, Hanamikato had already engaged students from both schools. More accurately, he had engaged students from the Tokyo branch. With the exception of Todao Aoi, who still retained considerable fighting ability, the Kyoto branch students had all sustained significant injuries from their previous battles with Seiya. Facing a top-tier, special-grade curse spirit like Hanamika, and with the surrounding forest as their home turf, despite being outnumbered, Maki and Panda were ultimately defeated. The only two remaining capable of engaging Hanamika were Yuji and Todao Aoi. Yuji relied on the protagonist's indestructible cockroach physique, while Todao relied on her unwavering strength. Previously, Todao Aoi had been uninterested in Yuji due to Seiya, but now, seeing Yuji repeatedly defeated and then rising like a true man, her affection for him has grown. Upon learning that Yuji's crush was also a tall woman, Todao Aoi instantly became a close friend. Not only did she repeatedly guide Yuji's shortcomings in battle, but she also used her own technique, unfair games, to develop a rapport with Yuji, quickly engaging Hanamika in a back and forth. However, this situation didn't last long, as Hanamiya soon received word from his comrade, Laohu. Their original plan had been discovered, and now he and Jito Suguru were faced with the most formidable of all, Gojo Satoru. Had Jito Suguru not possessed an exceptional understanding of Gojo Satoru's techniques and abilities, and had Gojo Satoru not been decisively killed by the fake Jito Suguru, who was constantly trying to uncover his identity and purpose, they would both have been dead. But dealing with a situation like this clearly couldn't last long, which was why Laohu decided to contact Hanamiya. If Hanamiya could put some pressure on the Jujutsu High School students, Gojo Satoru, sensing danger, would naturally be distracted. It was for this reason that Hanemiya, who had originally only been trying to lure the enemy, began to exert his strength. Vast fields of flowers, plants, and trees began to sprout from beneath the feet of the students from both schools. Hanami, now nestled within the flower fields, formed hand seals and unleashed a powerful spell. Domain expanded, devouring sea of light. As Hanami's domain expanded, everyone present was drawn into a jungle, where a vast expanse of diverse plants filled the air. Towering trees reached the sky, and a variety of flowers filled the surroundings. Aside from the fact that this was within enemy territory, the breathtaking natural beauty before them was truly one of the world's most breathtaking scenic spots. Earth Piranha Plant, Cursed Seed. As Hanami chanted, a gigantic piranha plant, complete with roots, suddenly burst forth from the earth, its fang-filled maw widening above the crowd. The next second, red spheres the size of lychees burst forth from the giant plant's mouth, showering the crowd with them. Due to the sheer number of red spheres ejected, and the guaranteed hit magic spells Hanamika unleashed within the realm, nearly all the Jiu-Jitsu high school students present were affected. Surprisingly, despite the disgusting appearance of these red spheres, no one felt any noticeable damage when they were struck. It wasn't until Kamo Kenki, standing nearby, drew his bow and arrow to use the red blood manipulation technique against Hanamika that his energies were instantly absorbed by the red spheres clinging to his body. Only then did everyone realize something was amiss. Kamo Kenki's energies had barely burst forth when they were devoured by the fanged, wide-mouthed red plants. Hanamika then bluntly declared, "My curse seeds can absorb your energies. Since you still have some use, I don't intend to kill you." However, before he could finish his words, several figures simultaneously attacked him from behind. The figures attacking Hanamika were none other than Seiya, Itadori, Todaoi, and Maki. When Hanamika's curse seeds were released earlier, not everyone was affected. Seiya cleaved each one in half with his long sword, while Todaoi dodged them using unfair game. As for Itadori, perhaps due to Ryomen Sukuna, Hanamika's curse seeds didn't dare to consume his cursed energy. As for Zenin Maki, who had no cursed energy of her own, curse seeds were no different from grass seeds to her. Facing the attackers coming from different directions, Hanamika pressed her arms against the ground in front of her. The next second, two massive tree roots, like earth dragons, erupted from the ground and shot towards Seiya and the others in a cross pattern. Because her techniques in Hanamika's domain were all guaranteed to hit, both Itadori and Maki were struck and pinned to the ground after their agile leaps in the air. As for Seiya and Todaoi, one of them constantly used magic to relocate, while the other watched the tree roots shoot towards him like snakes, and directly cut through them with dazzling swordsmanship. However, no matter how many roots Seiya cut, and no matter how many times Todaoi changed positions, more roots would grow in the surrounding area. Chapter 134, What is there to be afraid of an unarmed swordsman? Seiya, slicing through tree roots with a sharp swipe of his sword, and Todaoi, constantly shifting positions, exchanged glances and quickly realized that if they continued at this pace, they would undoubtedly be defeated. Regardless of the prowess of Seiya's swordsmanship and Todaoi's techniques, each attempt to fend off their opponent's attacks consumed a significant amount of both stamina and cursed energy. However, for Hanamiya, this place was within his domain, and controlling the various plants within was a piece of cake with his ability. Furthermore, they were already completely exhausted from even parrying the opponent's attacks, with no chance of reaching them. How could they retaliate? Realizing that if they didn't change their stance, they would likely be exhausted by the opponent, Seiya quickly changed his tactics. Having previously been merely defending himself, he now engaged in an extremely risky charge, unconcerned with the potential for injury. However, even at the cost of minor injuries, Seiya's exceptional swordsmanship could only close the gap from approximately 50 meters to Hanamiya to 10. This was because within 10 meters of Hanamiya's control over plants was stronger and her defense was more effective. Aincrad sword technique, sword throwing. For a skilled swordsman, their sword is undoubtedly their second life. Unless defeated or killed, they will never lay down their sword until the very last moment. Miwakasumi, equally skilled in swordsmanship as Seiya and previously admired by him, initially believed this. But when she saw Seiya hurling his cursed long sword less than 10 meters from Hanamiya, she was stunned to realize that this sword technique could actually be used in this way. The thrown long sword, like a swift arrow, brimming with cursed energy, shot towards Hanamiya's eyes with a piercing sound and astonishing speed. Just when everyone thought that Seiya's unexpected attack, even if it couldn't kill Hanamika outright, would at least cause her some distress, Hanamika looked at the incoming longsword and gave a faint grin. Tree wall, enveloped in Seiya's cursed energy and hurled with his swordsmanship, the longsword's speed and power were impressive. Even if the opponent possessed special-grade cursed energy, a direct hit to the head would surely be enough to devastate them. Unfortunately, just as the hurled cursed longsword was about to strike Hanamika's eyes, the ground in front of her suddenly cracked. Soon, massive tree roots, as if possessing life, began to entwine, forming a wall of roots before Hanamika. Thump. Though the cursed weapon, divinely protected by the cursed energy, possessed considerable penetrating and destructive power, it finally clashed with a resounding sound of metal clashing. Although the wall of roots finally collapsed under the blow of the cursed tool's divine protection, the impediment caused the long sword, once so swift and powerful, to spin and fly into the air. Watching the deflected long sword, Hanamichi glanced towards Seiya's location and quickly manipulated more tree roots to entwine it. Honestly, Hanamichi was a bit impressed by Seiya's decisiveness in throwing the long sword. The sheer skill in throwing the long sword, along with the control required to coat it with cursed energy and fling it, was something not easily achieved by ordinary sorcerers. Had he not pre-installed defensive spells around him as a precaution, he might have been completely undone. According to the information provided by Jiro Suguru and the insider at Jujutsu High School, the only person worth keeping an eye on at the two Jujutsu High School branches participating in the exchange meeting was Todao Aoi. So, who is this young man with this sword? No matter how you look at it, the other party is no ordinary person, but there's no information about him in the intelligence. Although the Tokyo and Kyoto branches have many students, Hanamiya hasn't worried from the beginning. Even Todao Aoi, who once exorcised a special-grade curse spirit, is nothing special in Hanamiya's eyes. He hadn't even used his full strength in his previous attacks, as his previous mission was simply to cause a commotion and attract the attention of the powerful experts at the Jujutsu High School. But now the situation is different. With Jiro Suguru and Rukutsu's team clashing with Gojo Sadara, Hanamiya has started to take real action and deployed his domain to gain sufficient bargaining leverage. With his domain power, he had many opportunities to eliminate most of the people here, but he chose not to do so. Rukutsu and the others said that only living hostages are valuable. Gojo Sadara's strength is indeed unmatched, but just because he has no weaknesses doesn't mean the same is true for those around him. The deflected Shinao continued to spin above Hanamiya. Seeing the growing number of tree roots enveloping him like tentacles, Seiya turned to his muscular brother, who was still dodging, and shouted, "Todao Aoi!" Hearing Seiya's shout and then seeing the look in his eyes, Todao Aoi, with her quick wit and combat experience, instantly understood what he meant. Pa! With a crisp clap of hands, Todao Aoi's technique, Unjust Game, was activated again, but Todao Aoi remained in the same spot. Hanamiya, realizing something, looked up in astonishment to see Seiya and the cursed longsword he had thrown earlier, switching positions. In Seiya's original position, a multitude of tree roots engulfed Shinao, but now he himself appeared above Hanamiya, plummeting at an astonishing speed and clenching his fist, striking him with a blow. His impressive sword-throwing technique had been a feint, the real killing move was his own. Not only was his opponent formidable, but his ingenuity was also astonishing. In such a short time, he had combined his own and Todao Aoi's techniques to create a two-stage attack. Hanamichi stared at Seiya, his face filled with surprise, his opinion of him rising again. While surprised by Seiya's tactics, Hanamichi wasn't alarmed. Seiya's previous fighting style suggested he was a skilled swordsman. Having launched the Unjust Game, his opponent was now unarmed. As a top-level cursed spirit, how could he fear an unarmed swordsman? What was there to fear from a swordsman's fists and kicks? With this thought in mind, Hanamichi clenched his fists and launched a punch at Seiya. Chapter 135. Is this called a simple domain? Compared to humans, cursed spirits are naturally more powerful. So, facing Seiya's incoming punch, Hanamiya, convinced he was a kendo expert, stood no chance. Furthermore, the arm Hanamiya had struck with a punch now sprouted fleshy buds resembling tendons and veins. These buds, like saplings, had the same ability to devour cursed energy and flesh. Hanamiya had already determined that Seiya's strength rivaled that of Todao Aoi. Although he didn't know who the opponent was, to maintain his balance, he had to neutralize him. Bang! The moment two fists, one large and one small, collided in midair. A powerful shockwave swept across the surrounding area, even cracking the ground where Hanamika stood. The moment his fist collided with Seiya's, Hanamika finally realized how utterly wrong his previous assumptions had been. The moment their fists collided, the ground within a radius of dozens of meters between them suddenly cracked into a spiderweb of cracks that spread outward. A large amount of debris was catapulted from the ground by the impact. Hanamika, whose fist had once seemed significantly larger than Seiya's, now had no advantage in the clash. There wasn't even a stalemate between the two. As everyone present, including Hanamika, watched in astonishment, Hanamika's arm, which had appeared significantly larger, twisted at a visible speed. Feeling the terrifying power radiating from her arm and watching it twist into strange angles, Hanamika stared at Seiya in astonishment, asking in disbelief, "How can you, a mere human who wields a sword, possess such terrifying physical strength?" Watching her arm twist as Seiya's fist continued to press down, Hanamika, aware of her own power disadvantage, quickly controlled the fleshy tissue on her arm, attempting to penetrate Seiya's skin and absorb his blood and cursed energy. However, just as the plant growth on Hanamika's arm extended, the next second, he felt the temperature around him suddenly and continuously rise. Boom! Without warning, orange-red flames erupted from Seiya's arm. The sheer heat not only instantly incinerated a plant growth on Hanamika's arm, but also spread directly to Hanamika's arm like wildfire. It's well known that trees fear fire, and Hanamika, a special grade cursed spirit born from humanity's fear of forests, has a weakness for fire. As for the source of Seiya's fire technique, it naturally came from the super flame of Tyrannosaurus. Wenrin-style fighting technique, explosive flame. Hanami, who is not at an advantage in terms of strength, is now even more powerless to resist due to his weakness to flames. As the raging flames exploded in front of Seiya like a red lotus, Hanami's huge figure flew backwards for hundreds of meters with sparks scattering all around. Hanami, who flew backwards, plowed a furrow in the ground with his body, and his arms, which were completely twisted into strange angles, were not only completely burnt at this moment, but even the ground he had just stood on was turned into scorched earth due to the extremely high temperature. Summoning Shikigami, tailed fire tiger, winged fire snake, beaked fire monkey, room fire pig, simple domain, 4 flame sanctuary. After sending Hanami flying 100 meters with a powerful punch, Seiya, taking advantage of the opponent's momentary daze, summoned 4 fire attributes Shikigami and activated his own simple domain. To counter a domain, one must employ a similar technique. Special grade cursed spirits and special grade sorcerers are powerful because they are inherently invincible within their domains. A master of domain expansion is virtually invincible against those without a domain, simply by opening their domain. While this powerful, fire-enchanted punch might have severely wounded Hanami, such an injury was insignificant to her. As previously mentioned, Hanami is the embodiment of this planet's forests. While plants fear fire, they also possess a tenacious vitality. Furthermore, this was within the opponent's domain, expecting to defeat them with a mere injury was sheer wishful thinking. If both opponents possessed domains, the competition came down to the strength of their respective domains and the power of their curses. Hanami is a top-notch special grade curse spirit. It is simply impossible for Seiya to defeat him by relying on an immature simple domain. However, he has already mastered the simple domain. Although he cannot defeat the opponent, he is not like other ordinary sorcerers who can only choose to sit back and wait for death after being trapped in the opponent's domain. The 4-star Shikigami of fire expanded their domains in the positions of the 4 symbols. As the temperature around them continued to rise, flames suddenly rose from the ground under the feet of everyone. The huge tree roots and red curse seeds that originally entangled the people from the 2 schools were now all reduced to ashes under the high temperature of the flames and completely dissipated in the air. Looking at the 4 Shikigami, including Tail Fire Tiger, standing and roaring in the positions of the 4 symbols, Fushiguro and the others looked at the flame sanctuary under their feet with surprise and said, "Is this Seiya's domain ability?" Seiya has mastered the simple domain, which Fushiguro and Kujisaki knew during his last battle with Ryomen Sukuna. It's just that they were isolated outside of Seiya's domain at that time, but now they are in Seiya's domain, so this is the first time they have seen Seiya's domain ability. Such a large range, and such a complete technique, you call this a simple domain? If this is a simple domain, then how big would his real domain cover when it is unfolded? And how powerful would it be, Hearing Fushiguro and the others say that this was Seiya's simple domain, Miwa Kasumi was also stunned, because she could also use the simple domain, but the range of her simple domain was at most 1 meter in diameter, which was barely enough for her to swing her sword. But now this simple domain of Seiya has a diameter of at least nearly 100 meters, and this is also called a simple domain? If you have time to talk nonsense there, you might as well hurry up and enter my domain now. The enemy's domain is far more powerful than mine. With my current simplified domain, I can only force a hole through it. Confronting him is impossible. And if we remain in his domain, we have no chance of victory. Hearing Seiya's warning, the students from both Tokyo and Kyoto branches no longer hesitated and leaped into the tunnel Seiya had opened with his simplified domain. After all, as Seiya had said, if they were outnumbered, they might still win, but if they remained in the enemy's domain, they would be the only ones to perish. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136 I have never seen such a Versailles person. We actually escaped from the domain of a special grade curse spirit, that when Seiya has even mastered a simple domain, and that simple domain alone is so powerful. Whose family is he from? The group that escaped Hanemiya's domain, looking at the devastation around them, realized with lingering fear that they had truly escaped the domain of the special grade curse spirit. Shortly after their escape, Hanemiya, whose injuries had been completely repaired by the life absorption technique, and Seiya, whose cursed energy had been largely depleted and whose face was exhausted, appeared. Hanemiya was surprised to see Seiya before him, as his strength far exceeded his expectations. He was merely a first-year student at the Jiu-Jitsu high school, yet he possessed the power to escape his domain. Such talent and ability also caused Hanemiya, who had previously held a low profile for murder, to look at Seiya with a fierce look. Hanemiya was arguably the most gentle of the special grade curse spirits, but he had a feeling that if Seiya continued to grow, he might one day become their formidable enemy. However, just as Hanemiya removed the sackcloth wrapped around her shoulders, revealing a massive flower bud, and was about to strike, he suddenly seemed to receive a message. After a deep look at Seiya, he turned and left. Seeing Hanemiya flee without hesitation, Yuji and the others tried to give chase, but were stopped by Seiya and Todawi. Not only were special grade curse spirits incredibly formidable, they were no match for them at this point. Even at their peak, forcing them to stay would be a challenge. The reason for Hanemiya's unwavering retreat was simple. Within minutes of their departure, Gojo Sadara, Iori Yudahime, and the others appeared. The special grade curse spirit's purpose in invading the Jiu-Jitsu high school was to steal the remaining 2 Sukuna fingers from the cursed inventory. Thanks to Seiya's warning, the man tasked with stealing the Ryomen Sukuna finger failed to succeed and was nearly killed by the arriving Gojo Sadara. Had Gojo Sadara not noticed the special grade curse spirits on Seiya's side and used his domain expansion to pull Yuji and the others into his domain, fearing for the students' safety, and rushing to the scene, none of the special grade curse spirits that had invaded the students would have escaped. Seiya, are you alright? Seeing that Seiya and his companions were injured, but none were missing, Gojo Sadara and Iwata breathed a sigh of relief. The enemy who had invaded Jiu-Jitsu high school was clearly well prepared, and fighting on 2 fronts meant they had no time to spare. While the Ryomen Sukuna finger and the other special grade curse items were safe, if the students had fallen prey to their attacks, their defeat would have been complete. I'm fine. It's just that using a simple domain to expand the opponent's domain earlier consumed a lot of cursed energy. As for my injuries, they've been mostly healed with reversal techniques. Unfortunately, I'm not very skilled, and I can't yet use reversal techniques like Teacher Shoko can. Seiya's rather eloquent words silenced the other students from the Kyoto and Tokyo branches. Honestly, their survival was largely due to Seiya's contributions. What was even more surprising was that Seiya had mastered such a difficult reversal technique. If that was considered poor training, then what were they? Were they just here to fill the gaps in the world of sorcery? The students of the Jiu-Jitsu high school were astonished. The Kyoto branch's principal, Rakugenji, and Yudahime, were no more impressed. They knew that Gojo Sadara had previously revealed that Seiya and Iori Shoko had only been studying reversal techniques for a week. It's only been a week, And you've already mastered the incredibly difficult reversal technique for manipulating cursed energy, and even a simple domain. Are you really a human? Besides strength, Rakuganji and Ankerheim knew that their ability to detect the enemy's true intentions and prevent the theft of the special grade cursed item was largely due to Seiya's initial awareness. To sum up, it's fair to say that the failure of Jiro Sugiru's plan was largely due to Seiya alone. Don't be too discouraged. With your talent and strength, you'll soon surpass that special grade curse spirit. And you've already accomplished a great deed this time. I believe that with this achievement, your application for promotion to first-class sorcerer shouldn't be a big problem. Am I right, old man, who's almost buried? Gajo Sadara patted Seiya in a reassuring gesture, then glanced at the grim-faced Rakuganji next to him and demanded bluntly. Rakuganji was a member of the upper echelons of the sorcery establishment, wielding considerable power, including overseeing sorcerer promotions. Previously, although Seiya's abilities reached the level of a first-class sorcerer, he couldn't directly become a first-class sorcerer because he lacked the necessary achievements. But now, the situation has changed. The previous 2 times he repelled Ryomen Sukuna, the sorcerer's superiors could have turned a blind eye. But this time, during the invasion of the Jujutsu High School, Rakuganji witnessed Seiya's activeness. While he didn't know what the fake Jiro Sugiru and his gang were planning to do with this special grade spelled item, if they succeeded, the consequences would undoubtedly be disastrous. Therefore, Seiya was undoubtedly the greatest contributor to this incident. Even if the sorcerer's superiors deliberately suppressed him, Seiya would definitely become a first-class sorcerer this time. With this commotion, the exchange meeting was clearly unable to continue, and Rakuganji left with the Kyoto branch staff in a displeased manner. However, what Seiya didn't expect was that before the Kyoto branch staff left, Iori Yuta, the advisory teacher at the branch, approached him. He offered a friendly gesture, like you, I'm a sorcerer from Sendai City. If you ever wish to transfer to the Kyoto branch, the doors of our Kyoto Prefectural Jutsu High School will always be open to you. Although Yutaheim knew that poaching was a bad idea, she couldn't blame him. After all, Seiya was from the same hometown as her, and he was so talented. In terms of strength, talent, character, and even intelligence, Seiya was far ahead of his peers. Who wouldn't like such a student? Besides, the Tokyo branch already had Gajo Sadara and Otsutsuki Yuta. The Tokyo Metropolitan Jutsu High School and the Kyoto Prefectural Jutsu High School were sister schools of equal renown, yet over the years, the Kyoto branch had been completely overshadowed. The Tokyo branch had no shortage of talent, so what if they had one from the Kyoto branch? Chapter 137 in Pure World Reincarnation Seiya and the Real Boss. In the pure white, mysterious space, Jujutsu Seiya, feeling his own strength was still a bit lacking since the exchange meeting between the 2 schools, arrived punctually to check out the situation. Hasn't there been any new big guys coming lately? If there's no bigwigs to lean on, the next time Ryomen Sukuna logs in, I'll really be a mosaic, looking at the familiar faces of the pure white space. Rolling Ball Seiya and Kirikoku Seiya, Jujutsu Seiya complained about his recent misfortunes. Unlike other hot-blooded anime worlds, the battle system in Jujutsu world is chaotic. While there are clear tires, the power collapses in the later stages. Some non-special grade sorcerers can kill special grade curse spirits with ease. However, some highly touted first level or even special grade sorcerers are easily defeated without much defense. Take, for example, the current head of a certain Zenin family, or a certain Tsunade version of Jujutsu. In short, there are too many flaws to complain about. Ryomen Sukuna's combat power is completely unreasonable. The storyline that Jujutsu Seiya currently knows is nearing its end, and the prophet's advantage is gone. He has almost no idea when Ryomen Sukuna will reappear next time, or what level of strength he will have when he does, so he has no confidence at all. It's possible to improve his strength step by step, but he's just a normal player. No matter how fast he trains in the Jujutsu world, can he be faster than Ryomen Sukuna, the cheater? If he wants to save his life, he still has to rely on powerful people. And since the powerful people he relies on are his own, he doesn't tremble. Prince of Tennis Seiya, why didn't they come this time when I pushed Seiya? Jujutsu Seiya was still complaining about his miserable experience when Sword Seiya and Raven Seiya arrived. They're both already winners in life. With their current power, they could practically walk around in their own world. He might as well be doing civil engineering right in that girl's bed. Civil engineering, Idiot, do you even know what piling is? How can we possibly repair it? We're all Seiya, so why am I struggling on the brink of death every day, hounded by all sorts of curses, while these two can just hang out with girls? Hearing Jujutsu Seiya's sentimental words, the other Seiyas present cast sympathetic glances at him. Having just shared memories and abilities, they already knew Jujutsu Seiya's current predicament. He'd started the game with a bang, but unfortunately, the other player wasn't a busty, beautiful streamer, but a gay with 2 faces and 4 arms who enjoyed slicing people into pieces. Haven't there been any new bigwigs coming here lately? Honestly, every time memories and abilities were shared in this pure white space, even without newcomers, it was a significant improvement for each Seiya. Because each Seiya's strength in his own world is not static, each possesses their own unique experiences and insights. Therefore, each time abilities are shared, these are shared with the other Seiyas. Simply put, even without newcomers, the Seiya's normal rate of improvement is many times greater than that of ordinary people. While others strive individually, they are collectively cultivating, and the results of their cultivation are shared. While the shared improvement this time is significant, it's clearly not a quantum leap. With this level of strength, I'm not sure I'll be able to defeat that Chunibayao next time I meet him. As if hearing Jujutsu Seiya's prayer, just as everyone was about to disperse, 2 doors opened, one behind the other, revealing 2 identical Seiyas, each wearing completely different clothing, entering the pure white space. One of these 2 new Seiyas appeared to be in high school and was dressed in modern attire. The other Seiya wore a retro-style divine robe, a long sword hanging from his back, a blade pouch at his waist, and, most notably, a ninja sword protector. Even more outrageous, the whites of Seiya's eyes were black, and his skin, like cracked porcelain, was covered in cracks. As the 2 Seiyas opened the door and stared at each other, the ordinary high school student Seiya, looking at the ninja Seiya, immediately said, "Brother, are you cosplaying? But if you want to cosplay, just cosplay. Why are you using my face? And you're making it look like I'm dead, That's too unlucky." Looking at the high school student Seiya, who looked exactly like him but was dressed in modern clothes, Seiya initially thought he was under the influence of a jinjutsu. But then he realized he was in the state of an impure world reincarnation. How could he be under the influence of a jinjutsu? Just as the 2 exchanged bewilderment, wondering if they were dreaming, Jujutsu Seiya and the others noticed what was happening and hurried over. Hokage Seiya and high school student Seiya were even more bewildered when they saw several more people who looked just like them. Jujutsu Seiya didn't waste any time, simply reaching out and placing his hands on their shoulders. Then, with the power of shared memories, the 2 newcomers excitedly realized their golden finger had arrived. Dressed in ninja attire and sporting a NERvGear forward protector, Hokage Seiya was undeniably recognizable. At a glance, the other Otaku Seiyas knew he came from a different world. As for the seemingly ordinary high school student Seiya, he had indeed been an ordinary person before arriving here, but the world he inhabited was anything but ordinary. His neighbor was Akazuki Kozo, who had 2 adorable stepdaughters, one of whom was Akazuki Eri. There was also a nearby hospital, where the nurses were said to possess extraordinary skills. Upon learning that the world the high school student Seiya inhabited was a world stitched together from multiple episodes of the anime, the other Seiyas looked at him with awe. As expected, the real deal doesn't show its true colors. The seemingly ordinary Seiya is the real boss. No, brother, you've made it to the anime world, and you're still a nerd. You guys are supposed to be handsome. Even in a regular harem anime, you'd be surrounded by women, but in the anime world, you don't even have a decent record. After a wave of memory sharing, everyone looked at Seiya from the anime world with a bit of surprise. They'd thought they'd get some perks from sharing memories, but this new guy turned out to be nothing. Even if it's an anime world, there should be some basic logic, right? Do you think it's like watching a movie, where you skip 3 minutes and then just go straight to the end? Sword Saint Seiya, what else? Naruto Saint Seiya, what morals are you talking about in the anime world? Just force yourself. Balmain Saint Seiya, damn, I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. I don't even know when I'll be able to write in German in its full form. Chapter 138 Seiya, who is Deviman? Digimon World, Digital World. Having just returned to his own world from the pure white room, Jeroman was enraged by the thought of his anime self, whom he had met in the shared space. Damn, he'd been so lucky to reach a world every other Seiya could only dream of visiting, only to find that Seiya stayed home playing games all day instead of going out to play. And the anime Seiya's reasoning was strong. While the anime world had no moral compass, he'd already been a complete wretch. What if he gave someone to the Minotaur and then got retaliated against, leaving them dead on the streets? Hell, dead on the streets. According to the anime world's nature, even if someone was given to the Minotaur, the ones who would come to retaliate would definitely be the heroine's sisters, or even her mother. And with a character like that, talking to them would be disrespectful. Just give them a few injections and they'd behave. Even if you were caught and imprisoned, according to our anime tropes, wouldn't they have featured some pretty guards or prisoners, along the lines of white prison or female guard musen? It's all Seiya, but the anime Seiya is a disgrace to the Seiyas. If it weren't for the immense value of that world's development, he should have been kicked out of the group chat long ago. Brother, as you instructed, we've finally found information about Devilman and the Chosen Children. Digital Seiya was still complaining about his own incompetence in the anime world, but a Digimon resembling a small yellow dinosaur trotted up to Seiya with an anxious look on its face. Indeed, since arriving in the digital world, Seiya has used his own strength to establish a significant presence there and even recruited a number of minions. There are many Digimon series, and when he first arrived, Seiya had no idea which one he was in. But if Seiya remembered correctly, the story of the Chosen Children arriving in the digital world and every Digimon series was largely the same, rehashed. Compared to other Digimon, humans stood out in the digital world, making them easy to find. After extensive investigation and intelligence gathered by his subordinates, Seiya finally confirmed that the current digital world he was in was likely only the first episode. The last time his subordinates found the Chosen Children, they had described their characteristics. Unfortunately, before Seiya could find them, they were taken away by Elder Gene. What? You found them again? Where did they appear this time? Previously, because of Elder Gene's presence, Seiya hadn't dared to approach the Chosen Children. After all, Elder Gene was so mysterious, Seiya even suspected they might be a consciousness of the digital world. If he discovered his uniqueness, Seiya had no idea how things would play out. Seiya hadn't anticipated that finding the Chosen Children would take so long after that missed opportunity. Brother, you've been searching for the Chosen Children. Are you planning to follow Devilman's orders and kill them? Faced with a question from one of Agumon's minions, Seiya's round face suddenly revealed a human-like disdain. Follow Devilman's orders? What's that Devilman? He's just a mature scumbag. Does he think he's invincible? We're searching for the Chosen Children because only they can enter the real world. The digital world is nice, but it's nothing compared to the real world. You won't understand even if I tell you so much. Just tell me how the Chosen Children are doing. Elsewhere, at the foot of Mount Infinite, Agumon, clad in green and armed with a bone club, and Liaman, whose mind was controlled by the Dark Year, were attacking the Chosen Children from both sides. There were 7 Chosen Children, but Patamon hadn't yet evolved into a mature Anduamon. Kashiro, Mimi, and the others Bitamon and Cactusmon, previously attacked by Agumon, were already incapacitated. Even the 2 main characters, Teichi and Kazu, along with their companion Digimon, Tyrannosaurus and Garurumon, were instantly annihilated by a single Beast King fist from Liaman, empowered by numerous Dark Years. The Chosen Children held a sacred plan, which was supposed to dispel the Dark Years within Liaman. However, just as they raised their hands, Iman attacked from the air, snatching the plan from their grasp. With the plan seized and their paths blocked by Liaman and Agumon respectively, the Chosen Children, caught on the middle, began to despair as they watched Liaman and Agumon prepare their respective ultimate moves. Beast King Fist, Overlord Fist, just as the orange-red lion-headed Fist Shadows and the purple barbarian-like Fist Shadows, one on each side, were about to blast the Chosen Children in the middle into smithereens. A massive orange-red figure suddenly appeared before them. Facing the initial attack of the Beast King Fist, Tyrannosaurus, now evolved, whipped its tail around, instantly shattering Liaman's ultimate move. A blazing flame then coalesced in the air, and the next second, facing Agumon's ultimate move, the Overlord Fist, it similarly unleashed a blazing stream of flame. Hyper Flame, the moment the massive column of fire collided with the purple Fist Shadows, Agumon's ultimate move, the Overlord Fist, barely held out for a second before Seiya's Super Flames shattered it. The Super Flames then burst through the Overlord Fist's power, and with undiminished momentum, it engulfed Agumon, who was still holding his punch. As a fellow mature Digimon, Agumon had consistently matched Liamon's strength, a fact of considerable note. However, faced with the raging flames, his green-skinned form barely withstood the blaze for seconds, instantly transformed into a digi-egg and falling. Lion Kirimaru, after dispatching Agumon with a burst of super flame, Liamon, now controlled by the black ears and greatly enhanced, charged in front of him, slashing at him with his short sword. However, before Liamon's sword could reach Seiya's body, it was clamped by one of Seiya's claws. Seiya then clenched his free fist and delivered a single blow, sending Liamon flying over 10 meters. The force of the blow was so immense that it not only plowed a long furrow in the ground, but also shattered the black ears within its body, sending them flying in midair. Chapter 139. They are all Tyrannosaurus. Why is he so strong? Because from the moment Seiya appeared, to the moment Agumon was reduced to a digi-egg, to the moment Liamon was sent flying by a single punch, and even to the moment the black ears within his body were shattered, everything happened in a split second. So much so that when the rescued children finally realized what was happening, they looked at Seiya with shock. Greymon, when did you become so powerful? Teichi asked in disbelief, and Agumon beside him tugged at his sleeve with his claws, saying, Teichi, that wasn't me. I'm still here. Agumon's words filled the chosen children with astonishment. After glancing back at Agumon and then at Seiya, who had evolved into Greymon, they were finally certain that the Greymon before them was not the Greymon they knew. Greymon, you again. You've ruined King Devimon's plan. King Devimon will not let you go. Seeing Agumon instantly defeated, and even the powerful Black Liamon unable to withstand Seiya's punches and kicks, Imon, who had previously been so smug and arrogant, was now terrified. After abandoning the holy plan he had just snatched, he hurled harsh words at Seiya as he fled. This wasn't the first time Seiya and Devimon had met. Both were powerful mature Digimon in the digital world, each with their own territories. Devimon occupies Infinite Mountain, using black ears to control the more benign Digimon. Seiya's territory, on another mountain, was originally separate. But who knew Devimon had such a brain? A mere mature Digimon would think he represented darkness, delusionally aiming to rule the entire digital world. Originally, this wasn't a big deal. After all, Chuonibiao is common, and Digimon possess intelligence, so the occasional bout of Chuonibiao isn't surprising. But Devimon, being a Chuonibiao himself, would be fine, but he actually sent Imon to his territory to give him orders, demanding he follow his instructions and help him eliminate the chosen children. Seiya had no idea how drunk Devimon, a mature Digimon, must have been to justify his boasts of world domination. But since the other Digimon had given him such a Chuonibiao run for his money, Seiya naturally wouldn't hold back. After resolving the chosen children's crisis, Seiya quickly transformed from Tyrannosaurus back into Jiramon. To the chosen children's surprise, after Seiya's transformation, a number of mature Digimon suddenly appeared nearby, carefully scooped up Seiya's body, and placed it on a makeshift throne they had constructed. Then, an Agumon, who looked exactly like Agumon, but with a darker complexion, looked at Teichi and the others with an unpleasant expression and said, "You guys are so rude. Our big brother just saved you, and you didn't even say thank you." The chosen children were incredibly surprised to see Seiya, now a juvenile Digimon, being addressed as big brother by a group of Digimon in their adult stages. They had been wandering the digital world for some time, and as far as they knew, native Digimon weren't supposed to have the ability to evolve or degenerate on their own. But what on earth was this Jiramon? How could he evolve into Tyrannosaurus on his own, and how much stronger was he? The chosen children knew the true strength of Agumon and Liamon best. Agumon aside, Liamon, now a darkened Digimon, though also in his adult stage, had just been able to easily take on 4 or 5 of them. Yet, Liamon, despite his immense power, couldn't even withstand 2 blows before being completely defeated. He's Tyrannosaurus from Mount Holy Dragon, and like Devimon, he's one of the strongest mature Digimon in the digital world. Although he didn't stand up to Devimon when the digital world fell into darkness, he wasn't on the same side with Devimon, so he's not a bad guy. Having regained consciousness after the dark ears within his body were expelled, Liamon took the initiative to introduce the chosen children. "Don't put it on me. Devimon wants to rule the digital world, but what does that have to do with me? I'm not a chosen child. Other Digimon are being persecuted by Devimon and controlled by the Black Ears, but that's none of my business. After all, they're not my minions." Seiya's words left Liamon speechless. As a Digimon with a heart for justice, He simply couldn't accept Seiya's values. To prevent the chosen children from being corrupted by Seiya and even abandoning the digital world, Liaman is currently considering how to quickly remove the scourge, Seiya. While Seiya isn't a villain like Deviman, the chosen children are still young, and it would be unfortunate if he tainted their perspectives. Hey, Liaman, why is Tyrannosaurus so much more powerful than Teichi's Tyrannosaurus? Liaman and the chosen children were acquainted before, and seeing that Liaman seemed to understand Seiya, Mimi and the others asked their biggest questions. Honestly, Deviman's immense strength worried the children preparing to defeat him at Mount Infinite. They were nearly annihilated even against Agriman and Liaman, so would they truly be able to defeat the even more powerful Deviman? According to Kaoshiro's information, both Seiya and Deviman are likely only mature Digimon, right? If their partner Digimon can also reach maturity and become as strong as Deviman and the others, then with 7 of them fighting against one, wouldn't this wave be a sure thing? There are many types of Digimon, and even within the same type, there are many different individuals. Due to different upbringings and experiences, individual strengths naturally vary. There are many Tyrannosaurus, and even Deviman, but the Deviman of Infinite Mountain are different from ordinary Deviman. Because they are recognized by the darkness, they are even more powerful and evil. Similarly, as Digimon of the chosen children, you are also different from ordinary Digimon. You possess the ability to evolve rapidly. Digimon of the digital world generally need to accumulate sufficient data and undergo a period of training to evolve, but you can draw on the power of the chosen children to grow rapidly. Although you are both mature Tyrannosaurus, in terms of combat experience and ability, you, who have only grown up for a short time, are naturally no match for him. The chosen children barely understood Liaman's words, but they still didn't understand why Seiya could regress on his own after evolving. Chapter 140, Is Demon Beast also a boss? Don't worry about all that now. The most important thing for you is to defeat Deviman. Otherwise, more kind Digimon will fall under the control of Deviman's black gears. This world can only be saved by you. Liaman abruptly changed the subject in response to the inquisitive chosen children's questions, not forgetting to offer some pua. He also wondered why Seiya could revert back to the juvenile form of Jiramon after evolving to maturity. Theoretically, Digimon in the digital world should maintain their evolved form after evolving through their own power. The reason the Digimon of the chosen children degenerate is because the power they use to evolve comes from the chosen children, not from their own training or data increase. Simply put, a Digimon is essentially a mass of data. When that data reaches a certain limit, it manifests in a completely new form. This is what's known as evolution. The data needed for Teichi's Agumon and his companions' evolutions comes from the power of the chosen children. After the battle, this power naturally returns to the divine plan. Liaman is completely baffled as to why Seiya, a native Digimon, can evolve and degenerate on his own. Logically, even if Seiya is a Digimon of the chosen children, he shouldn't possess such power. The reason Seiya possesses the power to evolve and degenerate on his own is simple. In this world, his original data is equivalent to that of a juvenile Jiramon. However, after sharing his abilities with Seiya from other worlds, the extra power becomes the data needed for his evolutions. The more power Seiya from other worlds share, the higher their level of evolution. When not using their power, Seiya reverts to Jiramon. This isn't just for cuteness. Maintaining this form is the least energy consuming for Seiya. Gruman, do you want to join us to fight Deviman? Although Liaman had just said that only the chosen children could defeat Deviman, the children had witnessed Seiya's recent display of strength. Furthermore, Seiya had just saved them, so Teichi, looking at Seiya's warm invitation, made a heartfelt appeal. To be honest, Seiya had almost forgotten the details of how the chosen children returned to the real world. After all, this was a series that lingered in his childhood memories. However, to return to the real world, they either had to join Deviman or follow the main characters. Seiya had no interest in being someone else's lackey, so naturally, he had to join the main characters. Seiya agreed to go, and the chosen children were delighted, as they had a powerful ally, which increased their chances of defeating Deviman. Liaman, however, was quite surprised. As a native Digimon, he knew that while Seiya and Deviman had a difficult relationship, he wouldn't fight Deviman to the death for the chosen children. Mugen Mountain is home to Deviman, a creature recognized by the darkness of this world and possessing the power to create dark gears. Seiya and his companions had just reached the mountain, and before they even encountered their boss, Deviman, they encountered a group of Digimon controlled by the dark gears. Facing a large number of mature Digimon, Liaman drew his dagger and took the lead before the children. Then, looking at the children behind him, he said, "Children, leave this to me and Balman. Go and defeat Deviman." Indeed, Liaman, while offering to stay behind to cover the rear, even managed to drag Seiya into the fray. The reason for this was simple. On the one hand, the enemies controlled by the Black Years were too numerous for Liaman to handle alone. On the other hand, Liaman was concerned about Seiya, fearing he had ulterior motives in helping the chosen children. While the chosen children were the hope of this world, they were still just children, too trusting to be trusted. Seiya wasn't as evil as Deviman, but he certainly wasn't a righteous Digimon either. To prevent any harm to the children, Liaman decided to keep a close eye on Seiya. Seeing Liaman struggling to face several mature Digimon, Seiya once again evolved into Greymon. Far surpassing Taichi Greymon in size, he punched each of the Digimon charging at him. Although both were mature, the difference was clear to anyone with a discerning eye. Even facing multiple mature Digimon, Seiya remained a force to be reckoned with. Even without using his ultimate, he easily shattered the Black Years within the bodies of the mature Digimon before him with his single punch. "Lumen, you've been on guard against what I might do to those children, haven't you? But you, who pride yourself on being righteous, let those children face the most dangerous Devimon on their own. Is that how you operate?" Seeing his purpose through Seiya's eyes, Liaman made no attempt to argue. Instead, he used his dagger to force back a Digimon in front of him, continuing, "This is the children's mission. If it were them, they would surely defeat Devimon and restore peace to the digital world." Mission? What a plausible excuse. Just because they were chosen by this world, those children must risk their lives to save the world? I don't care if you're a character arranged by that old man Gene, a pawn used by the world tree to advance this world, or if you're acting on your own will. But if you get in my way, I'll kill you too. As you said before, while I'm not as evil as Devimon, I'm not a Digimon who claims to be righteous, nor am I one of those children who are easily deceived. No one can orchestrate me, not even the world tree. My script is mine." As Seiya finished his words, more Digimon controlled by Black Years swarmed toward him. Facing these charging Digimon, Seiya refused to hold back, instead unleashing a burst of intensely hot flames. The flames, intense enough to scorch the air, instantly fanned out, reducing the 100-meter area in front of Seiya to scorched earth. The Digimon that had previously blocked Seiya's path were transformed into Digi-eggs and fell from the sky. Liaman, upon witnessing Seiya's brutality, was about to say something, but they were suddenly overcome by a vast cloud of darkness that enveloped the summit of Mount Infinite. The Digimon that hadn't yet been defeated also erupted with Black Years, each flying towards the summit. Chapter 141 Seiya Evolves, Machine Tyrannosaurus. The unexpected incident at the top of Mount Infinite caused Seiya and Liaman to stop arguing and quicken their ascent. Upon reaching the summit, Seiya and Liaman were stunned by the sight of the Digimon soaring through the air, and the fallen protagonists before them. Kaoshiro watched the Digimon wield its bloody whip in the air, sending Injuman flying with a single blow. He quickly logged into his computer to analyze the Digimon's data, and soon obtained information about the Digimon. Vampireman, a virus-type undead Digimon, a perfect Digimon, is the king of the undead Digimon, revived through dark means and possessing immense power. He is incredibly cruel and cunning, and is even more powerful at night. His special attacks are Night Demon Flight, where he manipulates countless bats for surprise attacks, and Crimson Whip, where he transforms blood into Long Whip. After analyzing the Digimon's origins, Kaoshiro was stunned. They had never heard of a perfect Digimon. Because most of the enemies they had previously encountered were mature, they had always assumed that Digimon could only evolve to mature. Arriving at the summit of Mount Infinite, they initially engaged in a fierce battle with Devimon, who had absorbed the power of darkness. Although they were slightly outmatched, a miracle ultimately occurred, allowing Takeru's Patamon to successfully evolve into Angemon. Angels are the nemesis of demons, and as a Digimon making its debut, Angemon naturally displayed his impressive power. Devimon was utterly defeated by his ultimate move, Heaven's Fist, with each blow. However, just as Angemon reached out to embrace Devimon, bid Takeru a heartfelt farewell, and prepared to detonate along with the demon, something unexpected happened. Unwilling to accept this, Devimon erupted into an even deeper darkness, absorbing all the Black Years of Mount Infinite. Finally, fueled by the vast amount of data, Devimon evolved from Devimon into Vampireman. A mature Devimon could easily defeat the mature members of the chosen children, so now that he was a fully formed Digimon, The outcome was even more formidable. Each time the other Digimon of the chosen children evolved and debuted, they each had their own highlight moment. But Injuman, despite all the prelude and foreshadowing, was now being repeatedly lashed by the evolved Vampireman. The fully formed Vampireman clearly had the power to instantly kill Injuman, but now, instead of using his ultimate move, Vampireman unleashed his small whip and unleashed a furious beating on Injuman. There was nothing he could do. Previously, when he was still in his mature stage, he had nearly been annihilated by the other Digimon. Now that he had risen, Vampireman naturally had to slowly tame the hatred that had just humiliated him. When Seiya and Leomon arrived, Injuman was being held in midair by Vampireman's bloody whip, looking completely tormented. Super Flame, the scene was so jarring that Seiya, without a word, unleashed a mouthful of thick phlegm, no, super flames, at Injuman. Facing the scorching pillar of flame, Vampireman initially attempted to show off by absorbing Seiya's ultimate attack with his face. However, sensing the overwhelming heat, Vampireman ultimately flung Injuman away, then pulled up his cloak to block the attack. As the intense flame struck Vampireman's cloak, he was thrown back several meters. But with a swift burst of dark power, Vampireman, wielding his cloak, ultimately dispersed the incoming flames. I didn't expect you to come and die before I even settle with you. Today, neither you nor any of the chosen children will escape alive. Night Demon attack. Previously, as both of them in their mature stage, Devimon hadn't felt confident facing Seiya. He was clearly recognized by the dark forces, which was why he was so powerful in his mature stage. But the fact that Seiya could match him, or even surpass him, was simply outrageous to Devimon. The digital world is a complex place. Because Devimon had previously been unable to fathom Seiya's true strength, he had kept his distance from him. But now, the situation was different. Having evolved into perfect Digimon, and Seiya being in his own territory, it was natural for him to settle old and new scores. Seeing countless black bats swarming towards him, Seiya unleashed a barrage of fire. However, due to the power gap between a mature Digimon and a perfect Digimon, Seiya was ultimately sent flying by a powerful attack. Honestly, in Seiya's current form, Tyrannosaurus Rex's combat power was already comparable to that of the perfect Digimon of the chosen children. If it were any other perfect Digimon, he would have a clear chance of victory. However, the key point was that Vamdemon was no ordinary perfect Digimon, he was a boss perfect Digimon recognized by the powers of darkness. Even as a perfect Digimon, he was able to hold his own against 7 of the chosen children, a testament to his strength. It seems defeating a perfect form at its mature stage is a bit difficult after all. Seeing Seiya being knocked away by his ultimate move, Vampireman was initially quite pleased. However, upon hearing Seiya's words, he suddenly became unhappy and sarcastically said, "Watch your words. What do you mean by defeat a perfect form at its mature stage is still too difficult? You're making it sound like you can evolve to perfect form yourself. Do you even know what a perfect form is?" Looking at Seiya in front of him, Vampireman looked disdainful. "I'm the MVP right now, and you're even more pretentious than me. I'm sorry to tell you, you were right. I have indeed evolved to perfect form." Hearing Seiya's words, Vampireman couldn't help but scoff. "Perfect form? You think you're one of the chosen ones, and you can evolve whenever you want?" If evolution were that simple, then Vampireman's taunting words were quickly swallowed back before they could be uttered, as Seiya before him suddenly became enveloped in a burst of white light, and his form began to transform within the enveloping white light. Tyrannosaurus evolves into Machinedramon. Photon, that's... Taichi glanced at Photon beside him, clearly not expecting Tyrannosaurus to evolve again. Photon, whom Taichi was questioning, was now tapping away on his computer, and soon, relevant information popped up. Machinedramon, a cyborg vaccine Digimon, a perfect Digimon, evolved from Tyrannosaurus, with over half its body mechanized by Digialloy. Its special moves are the Trident Arm, a reinforced time Digialloy weapon, and the Ultimate Destroyer, an organic missile launched from a chest hatch. This is the Digimon information that Elder Jenny registered on my computer, but the Machinedramon that Relerman evolved into seems a little different. Chapter 142, Do It Directly. Koshiro glanced at the image and information of Machine Greymon on his computer, then looked at the evolved Seiya before him. It wasn't entirely different, but the difference was significant. The Machine Greymon on Koshiro's computer had only its left arm and chest mechanized. However, The machine Greymon that Seiya had evolved into had not only its left arm mechanized, but its right arm had also been transformed into a massive metal sword. Because Seiya's form differed so drastically from the information in the Digimon database, Kaoshiro quickly sent Seiya's current form to Elder Gene. It took several minutes for him to finally receive a response. In Machine Greymon's altered form, Metal Greymon, having gained immense strength through the mechanization of his upper body, further mechanized his right arm. After accumulating intense battles, and in order to counter the approaching enemy, he transformed his right arm into a massive energy cannon called Alterus. Its special attacks are Positron Shockwave, which concentrates energy into modification, unleashing a sublight speed barrage, and Kainoken, which transforms the stored energy into Positron Sword. Because it can fully unleash its full power at both close and long range, this form is far more powerful than the standard Machinedramon. Rillerman has also evolved into perfect form, and it's no ordinary perfect form. The protagonists, already nearly wiped out, are overwhelmed by the sight of Seiya soaring through the air with 6 tattered wings flapping. Perfect form is impossible. How can a Digimon that hasn't received the favor of the Dark Forces and isn't one of the chosen children evolve into perfect form? Seeing Seiya's evolution, the most emotionally disturbed Digimon present wasn't the chosen children, but Vampiremon, who had just been acting so arrogantly. He simply couldn't accept the idea of Seiya evolving into perfect form. He was clearly the boss, having been near death and blessed by the power of darkness to achieve nirvana and evolution. Yet, Seiya was just a mere passerby Digimon. How could he have been granted the power to evolve? This was absurd. Night Attack. In jealousy and rage, Vampiremon once again unleashed his signature attack on Seiya. Unfortunately, Night Attack, which had previously easily overwhelmed a mature Seiya, shattered all the bats with a simple swing of his metallic mechanical left arm. Is that your ultimate move? It's utter garbage. This enemy, only the chosen children can defeat. I'm going to see if you're truly invincible. Positron Shockwave. The metal claws of his left hand tore through Vampiremon's ultimate attack, Night Attack, and Seiya quickly raised his right arm, transformed into a giant metallic sword. The technologically advanced metal giant sword unfurled its 2 blades. A massive current began to converge at the grooves of the sword's core, and within a split second, it transformed into a pulse of energy that erupted from the center of the sword. The massive energy pulse pierced the sky, and the powerful recoil from the impact even caused Seiya, who now weighed at least a ton, to stumble back half a meter. Faced with the incredibly fast, electric-charged energy pulse, Vampiremon had no ability to dodge or resist. The energy beam streaked across the sky and eventually vanished into the heavens. Finally regaining consciousness, Vampiremon discovered a massive, bloody hole had been torn open in his chest. In theory, a typical Digimon struck by such a blow would have been fatal, but Vampiremon was an immortal Digimon, possessing not only a formidable vitality, but also, due to the settings of the version boss, only the chosen children who possessed the divine plan could defeat him. Therefore, despite his miserable appearance, he hadn't died. The surrounding dark aura began to rapidly converge, forming a vortex-like hole in Vampiremon's chest. The darkness's vortex possessed a terrifying suction force, quickly sucking all the chosen children in his Digimon in. Soon, even Vampiremon's body began to spin, being sucked into the darkness. I am immortal. I will never be defeated until the 8th chosen child appears. I may not be your match now, but once I kill the 8th child in the real world, I, in my immortal form, will one day return and defeat you. Clearly, true to the principle of not being defeated in the face of adversity, Vampiremon realized that he was no match for Seiya at this point. While the power of darkness held him back, he couldn't die, but that didn't mean he enjoyed being abused. Rather than continuing to tangle with Seiya, Vampiremon considered defeating the 8th chosen child in the real world the most important priority. As long as he could defeat the 8th chosen child, Vampiremon would be invincible, and he would eventually regain his ground against Seiya. As for why he didn't use his dark power to evolve again and defeat Seiya right then and there, the answer was that the script wouldn't allow it, similar to how Seiya could easily defeat Vampiremon, but couldn't right now. However, Seiya wasn't overly concerned with whether or not he could defeat Vampiremon. His current focus was on the other side of the dark vortex. Through the vaguely visible buildings, Seiya could tell that the other side of the dark vortex was his target, the real world. So, as the chosen children were sucked into the vortex, Seiya, without hesitation, flapped his tattered wings and flew directly into the dark vortex. In Shinjuku, Japan, a huge cloud of white mist suddenly erupted from a high-rise building. Inside two high-rise buildings in the city center, two young female staff members in white, wearing virtual reality headsets, observed the red dots appearing on their computers and began to report the situation to the black-clad staff members standing nearby. Mr. Yamaki, a new Wild One has appeared. Judging from the size of its data, it is as strong as the Emperor Demon that appeared before. After hearing the report from his subordinates, Yamaki, who is the director of the Network Management Office in the Network Management Bureau and manages and operates the system called Hypnos, God of Sleep, frowned deeply while playing with a lighter in his hand. If the Wild One that appeared is the Emperor Demon that appeared before, with the ability of their Hypnos system, it would be impossible to annihilate it. In other words, it depends on those kids to take action to eliminate the Wild One this time. Damn it. Why has the world become like this? Why is the Wild One that appears now getting stronger and stronger? What on earth are these so-called Emperor's demons? Quotation mark. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143. Are you my partner, Digimon? The so-called Wild Ones are actually Digimon that have entered the real world from the digital world. The Cyber Administration and the Hypnos, God of Sleep, system are organizations established to eliminate these Digimon that have entered the real world. Digimon from the digital world typically wreak havoc upon entering the real world where humans live. To those living in the real world, Digimon possessing extraordinary powers and enormous size are undoubtedly monsters. The Cyber Administration exists to eliminate these Digimon and conceal their existence from ordinary people. Yamaki Mitsurugi, the head of the Cyber Administration, deeply abhors Digimon that wreak havoc on the human world. To eliminate Digimon in the real world, Yamaki has actually planned to use the Hypnos system to launch the so-called Annihilation Plan. Digimon are essentially collections of data, and to eliminate a Digimon, simply erase the data. Since the appearance of the first of the 12 Digimon, Tamamon, the Cyber Administration has lost the power to expel them. A Digimon's strength is determined by the amount of data it possesses, and the Network Administration's Sleeping God system can only erase data at the level of mature Digimon. In that incident, it was the children led by Matsuda Kirito and their Digimon who ultimately defeated Flying to German. It was then that Director Yamaki realized that these self-proclaimed tamers weren't just playing games. They had already defeated Emperor Demons, who even the adults in the Network Administration office couldn't handle. However, despite the fighting prowess of those children and their Digimon, Director Yamaki still believed that Digimon were heretics appearing in this world. To eliminate these unstable factors, the Annihilation Plan was essential. Wild One has begun to materialize. Location, X404, Y404, above the Shinjuku department store. Should we expel it? Upon hearing the female assistant's question, Director Yamaki immediately nodded in agreement. While the Sleeping God system couldn't directly destroy the perfected Wild One, it was better than doing nothing. However, just as the female assistant was about to operate the equipment, another large red dot suddenly appeared on the map instrument in front of them. At the same time, a huge white fog suddenly engulfed the busiest streets of Shinjuku. Director Yamaki, it's the new Wild One, and the area it appeared in is not far from where the previous Wild One appeared. Immediately pull up the local street surveillance footage. As the footage appeared on the instrument screen, Director Yamaki watched with a grim expression as the vast white fog controlled a large area of Shinjuku's streets. Soon, a huge, long-haired wild boar extended its fangs from the white fog. It's those kids, they're there too, said another short-haired female assistant, catching sight of Matsuda Kirito and the others. Are they those little brats again? Contact the detectives on that street immediately and have them evacuate the crowd and seal off the scene as quickly as possible. I'll contact the higher-ups right away and initiate the Annihilation Plan ahead of time. We can't let these damn Digimon continue to wantonly destroy our home. On the streets of Shinjuku, Matsuda Kirito followed the scent that Gilman and the others had smelled and was the first to arrive at a place where Borman had materialized. However, upon arriving at the scene, Foxman suddenly appeared from behind Makin or Ruki and spoke directly. Ruki, besides Borman in front of us, there's another materialized Digimon nearby. What? There's a second materialized Digimon nearby? Could it be like Erasmin and Bulman last time? Two emperors have appeared at the same time this time. In response to Roki's question, Foxman shook his head, indicating he didn't know. He pointed to the department store nearby and said, "The other materialized Digimon is over there." Ruki didn't react to Foxman's words, but Kiro, standing nearby, said anxiously, "Oh no." Juri seemed to have said she was going to the department store to buy something today. Faced with a perfect emperor, Kirito and his trio didn't hesitate and immediately drew their blue cards to net evolve. Meanwhile, Gilman, Slenderman, and Foxman in front of them simultaneously evolved into perfect Gearman, Rabbitman, and Priestman. Kirito had originally hoped his two companions could temporarily hold off Borman while he and Gearman went to rescue his classmate Juri. However, as Borman burst through the white mist, it unleashed a cloud of thick black mud, instantly pinning the three perfect Digimon to their deaths. Elsewhere, due to Borman's sudden appearance in Shinjuku, local police officers began evacuating the crowd, following the Cyber Administration's instructions. Juri was preparing to evacuate, but suddenly saw a pink creature leap past her. Recognizing it as a Digimon, Juri followed without hesitation. Envious of Kirito and his friends becoming Digimon tamers, Juri had always wanted a Digimon of her own. However, Gearman couldn't fight, so seeing a wild Digimon in her skin was incredibly exciting. She ignored the detective's attempts to stop her and followed Seiya. Boom, boom, boom. The streets of Shinjuku were violently shaken and collapsed by the violent plowing of Wild Borman. Juri, who had been chasing Seiya, lost her balance due to the sudden shaking of the ground and fell from the building. Seiya had initially been reluctant to pay any attention to Juri, but seeing such a young girl nearly falling to her death while chasing him, Seiya couldn't bear it and stepped in to save her. Juri, having fallen from the building, initially believed herself doomed and even closed her eyes in fear. But soon, feeling no pain, she opened her eyes in confusion, only to be greeted by Seiya, now evolved into Tyrannosaurus. "Are you the pink ball from earlier?" Although Seiya's current orange dinosaur form was a far cry from the adorable creature, Juri instantly recognized him as Gearman. Juri was extremely excited about Seiya's rescue and asked, "Are you my partner Digimon?" Kirito and the others said that Digimon can only evolve when they are with their true tamers. Seiya was speechless at the lolly's train of thought and then said directly, "I am not your partner Digimon, and please don't follow me anymore. It's become very dangerous here. You should leave as soon as possible." Chapter 144 Seiya, evolved by combining with Lolly? Seiya knew Kato Juri, but he was a little confused. Wasn't he supposed to be in the first Digimon series? How did he end up in Tamer King? Digimon Tamer King is actually the third Digimon series, where the famous Crimson Knightman first appeared. Seiya was puzzled. In theory, he had entered the real world from the digital world in the first series through a wormhole, so the real world he arrived in should also be in the first series. But now, he had followed the chosen children into the real world, only to be transported to another parallel Digimon universe. Of course, Seiya was only briefly surprised by the direct trip from the first to the third series, but then he didn't take it too seriously. After all, even though it was a parallel universe, the digital world and the real world still existed, so to him, the difference wasn't that big of a deal. Furthermore, the parallel world of Tamer King offered advantages that the worlds of the first and second Digimon series didn't have. In this world, Digimon can grow stronger by defeating others and absorbing their data. If the Digimon in the first and second parts evolved through sheer hard work, then the Digimon in the third part, Tamer King, are simply cultivating their own abilities. The more Digimon they defeat, the stronger they become, even if they can't evolve. For Seiya, this world's setting is definitely more advantageous than the previous two. Upon arriving in this real world, Seiya could sense the presence of other Digimon. He was about to try and see how much he could improve by defeating them and absorbing their data, but then he encountered this situation. After saving Juri from falling from the building, Seiya degenerated from Tyrannosaurus to Gruntman. After locating Borman's location by the scent in the air, Seiya was about to leave when someone suddenly grabbed him. As expected, "You are the Digimon from before, so cute. And I seem to have seen Digimon like this before, let me look for the card." Without a doubt, the person who suddenly picked up Seiya from behind was naturally Juri, who had just been rescued by him. At this moment, a lolly with chestnut shoulder-length hair not only hugged Seiya's chubby body tightly with her hands and rubbed it against her face frantically, but also reached out and found a Digimon card in her backpack. In the world of Tamer's King, Digimon tamers have a setting That is, tamers can use Tyrannosaurus Rex to swipe the card to enhance the strength of their partner Digimon, and even let it use the special moves of other Digimon. Don't come near me, I'm a real man, so damn cute. And I've already said, I'm not your partner Digimon. Your partner Digimon should be Leomon. Before Seiya finished speaking, Juri had already found the card with Digimon printed on it, and looked at Seiya in her arms and said, sure enough, Digimon, a small infant Digimon, whose special move is bubbles. So, did you, Lolly, hear what I said? I said I'm not your partner Digimon. Your partner Digimon is Leomon. Before Seiya finished speaking, the Digimon card that Juri was holding in her hand suddenly burst into dazzling white light, and soon after, a yellow Digimon machine also suddenly appeared in Juri's hand. Seiya. Is this fucking wrong? When did I say I wanted to be this kid's Digimon? Although he did think for a moment just now that having a lollipop scooper might not be bad, that doesn't mean he wants to be a pervert who raises a lolly. Compared to Seiya, who was stunned, Juri was really overjoyed when she saw the yellow Digimon suddenly appear in her hand. While looking at the Digimon in her hand, making sure that she was not dreaming, she hugged Seiya tighter in her arms and rubbed her little face directly against Seiya's chubby face. This is impossible, your partner should be Leomon, and that guy was miserable. In the end, he was eaten alive by fallen angel Digimon. Why is he now, Lumon? I don't know any Leomon. Apart from Gulumon, you, Jeremon, are the first harmless and ownerless Digimon I've seen. Hearing Juri's words, Seiya was stunned. What the hell is this? Leomon didn't appear in this world? But even if Leomon, who had followed him into the whirlpool, hadn't arrived in this world, there should have been another Digimon in this parallel world. Now, he had inexplicably become a Lolita's partner Digimon, which was completely out of his plan. Because he already had the ability to evolve to perfect form, Seiya could have evolved to perfect form on his own, even without Juri. But what about evolving to an ultimate form? If he remembered correctly, in the Tamer King's world, the ultimate form of a Tamer and their partner Digimon was planned to fuse, right? In other words, unless he left this parallel world, or in this world, if he wanted to become an ultimate form, he would have to fuse and evolve with a little Lolita in front of him. Looking at the adorable Lolita before him, Seiya was speechless again. The thought of fusing with a Lolita was evil. And having her fight naked inside him was even more perverted. So, what had gone wrong? Why had he suddenly become Kato Juri's partner Digimon? Boom 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 boom, Juri, holding Seiya in one hand, was still fiddling with her Digimon, delighted at finding her Digimon companion, oblivious to the ground shaking around her, which was intensifying. Soon, a Digimon the size of a small hill appeared at the end of the street. The protagonists and their three fully evolved companion Digimon also noticed Juri, still dazed in the middle of the road. Agumon, which had been standing in front of Bormon, attempting to stop Bormon's advance, was struck by Bormon's tusks, sending its massive body flying backwards. Its direction of flight was exactly where Juri was standing, holding Seiya. Juri, danger, Agumon, stop! Seeing the flying Agumon about to crush Juri, Kirito and the others shouted. The jets behind Agumon were already blasting blue flames at full force, but the thrust wasn't enough to completely offset the inertia acting on it. Chapter 145, Continuous Evolution, Shocked Friends. Seeing the massive bulk of Agumon bearing down, about to crush his newly found lolly owner, Seiya broke free from Juri's arms and, with a powerful impact, knocked the lolly aside. Boom! Agumon was a transformed perfect Digimon, and its weight was undeniable. Seeing the concrete floor crumble so easily, Seiya was certain that if Juri had remained standing, the consequences would have been disastrous. Juri, are you okay? How did you end up in a place like this? Seeing Juri's narrow escape, Kirito and the others rushed to her side to check on her. However, Juri didn't respond to Kirito's concerned inquiries, instead running anxiously towards the place where Agumon had fallen. Agumon, are you okay? As the lolly cried out with tears in her eyes, a pink pom-pom bounced out from the gap where Agumon had fallen. Juri, what's this? Kirito and the others looked surprised at Seiya, held in Juri's arms. Juri, relieved to see Seiya safe, took out her newly acquired Digimon and said, it's called Jeremon, my partner Digimon. From today on, I can fight alongside you, isn't that right, Jeremon? Kirito and the others couldn't help but pat their faces and heads awkwardly as Juri held a pink ball before them. Kirito and the others were happy that Juri had found her partner Digimon. But to say Juri wanted to fight alongside them now was a bit awkward. Juri, Digimon also have stages of growth, and Jiriman is just a juvenile Digimon. Makin or Ruki, a fellow female, could only politely explain that the battles they were currently facing were too dangerous for a new tamer like Juri and a juvenile Digimon like Seiya. Well, to put it simply, their current strength was too low. Forget about helping, not causing any trouble at all. Juri was no fool. Hearing her partner Digimon, Seiya, being slighted, the young girl was clearly quite unconvinced, saying, "Grumman is very strong. If Gilman and the others can evolve, so can Grumman." However, Ruki and the others paid little attention to Juri's words, treating her like a newbie. While Digimon can evolve, achieving it isn't so simple. Think of how she and Yakuman defeated countless powerful foes before finally achieving their goal. Besides sufficient Digimon data, the bond between the tamer and their partner Digimon is also crucial. Juri and Grumman had only just met today. How could she possibly evolve Grumman? Even if Juri could evolve Grumman, it would only be from its juvenile stage to its adult stage. And their current enemy was a perfect Digimon. A Digimon in its adult stage wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps in their teeth against a perfect Digimon. In short, they were now playing in a high-level match. Even if Juri evolved Grumman, it wouldn't be able to keep up with their current rank. Seeing these little brats looking down on him like that, Seiya was a bit annoyed. He'd originally planned to defeat Grumman, absorb its data, and see how much he could improve. Now that his target was right in front of him, he didn't have to bother looking for it anymore, and he could also show the other brats what a truly higher-ranking player looked like. Seiya, freeing himself from Juri's embrace, leaped into the air, transforming into a small yellow dinosaur. Small flame, a soccer ball-sized flame erupted from Seiya's mouth, but as expected, it landed on Grumman, a small, hill-like Digimon, making not a single splash. Agumon, a growing Digimon, a vaccine-type reptile, is quite brave and fearless. Its special move is Small Flame, where it exhales a breath of fire from its mouth to attack its enemies. Watching Seiya fall from the sky, data about Agumon appeared on Juri's Digimon. Makin or Ruki, Kenryo, and the others standing by were stunned by the fact that Seiya had actually evolved. "Kiddo, which card do you need to evolve?" Despite a look of frustration, Juri handed over a high evolution component S. They all knew that even if the card boosted their stats, Agumon wouldn't be able to evolve to its mature form. But Juri, high-spirited, ignored the offer. She took the high evolution component S from Kiro and then pulled out her own Digimon, performing the card drawing motion she'd secretly practiced for so long. Card draw, high evolution component S. As the card slid across the Digimon slots, Seiya, who had originally planned to evolve on his own, suddenly felt a surge of power within him. Evolution, Agumon evolves. Greymon, accompanied by a shaking of the ground, the small yellow dinosaur that was originally running on two legs suddenly turned into a large orange-red dinosaur with a triangle on its head during the sprint. The Tyrannosaurus in Seiya's grown-up period is much larger than the ordinary Tyrannosaurus, but compared with a huge Borman, it is obviously still a lot smaller. Seiya rushed forward and used his crazy claws to directly grab Borman's body, and then opened his bloody mouth and sprayed out a high-temperature flame in the next second. Tyrannosaurus, a dinosaur-type vaccine species, is a mature Digimon. It is a warlike and powerful mature Digimon. Its special move is to spray super high-temperature flames from its mouth, burning everything to ashes with a super flame. Looking at the orange-red dinosaur that spewed flames from its mouth, burned the hair on Borman's body black, and used brute force to hold Borman back, preventing it from moving forward, Kyron and the others were stunned for a moment. Not to mention that Juri was actually able to make the newly become partnered Balman evolve one after another. Just a combat power displayed by Tyrannosaurus is quite unscientific, right? The previous Juriman also tried to stop Borman from moving forward, but was directly knocked away. However, Tyrannosaurus is a mature Digimon, right? Now he actually relied on wrestling to stop Borman, which Shivan the perfect Juriman couldn't stop. While Seiya and Borman were still wrestling with each other, the advanced component S in Juri's hand soon emitted a bright light. And Kyron and the others soon discovered that when they came to their senses, Juri had a blue card in her hand. This is a blue card. Could it be that Tyrannosaurus can evolve again? Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've always seen pigs run. Shuli saw Kyron and the others use the blue card more than once or twice, so at this moment she picked up the Digimon machine again without hesitation. Chapter 146. Now, who is the protagonist? As the card draw BGM sounded, Juri once again picked up her blue card and, with a dashing gesture, swiped it towards the slot of the Digimon. Card draw, Cyber Evolution, Matrix Evolution. A burst of light enveloped Seiya, who was wrestling with Gruntman. His body, before the astonished gazes of Kirito and the others, suddenly began to rapidly expand again. Greymon evolves, Machine Greymon strengthens, Machine Greymon modified. Kirito and the others were stunned as Seiya, once again evolving, this time to his perfect form, lifted Gruntman with a single, metallized left arm, his power surging. Machine Greymon modified, Vaccine Cyborg, Perfect Digimon. A cyborg Digimon perfectly transformed with Digialloy, further unleashing even greater strength. Capable of unleashing its full potential at both close range and long range, it is said to possess combat power comparable to an ultimate Digimon. Looking at the Digimon information that appeared on the Digimon machine, Kyren and the others were completely stunned. They really didn't expect that Juri had just met her partner Digimon today and became a tamer. But how could she have the ability to evolve Digimon in the early stage, all the way to the perfect form? That's not how cheats work. Hey, now are they the protagonists, or is Juri the protagonist? You know, they went through a lot of hard battles in order to make Ilman and the others evolve, but Juri just met her own Digimon, and now she jumps directly to the stage they are in? Trident arm. Seiya used his metal left arm to lift Farman and directly launched Farman's huge body into the air along with his metal left arm. He then raised his right arm, which had been transformed into a giant metal sword, and accompanied by a powerful electric current converging and compressing, a huge energy pulse beam burst out directly from the middle of the blade and hit Barman in the air. Positron shock wave. It was obvious that, as one of the 12 generals of the Emperor Demon, Gruntman was at best an elite monster, lacking the design and prestige of Vampireman. Furthermore, battles between Digimon were quite unpretentious. Given the absolute disparity in power, a single ultimate move was usually enough to end the fight. So, as Gruntman let out a shrill wail in midair, its massive body instantly transformed into vast massive data fragments under the assault of the positron shockwave. Seeing those fragments, Seiya instinctively absorbed all of the scattered data into his body. If I were to describe Seiya's current feelings in gaming terms, after absorbing Gruntman's data, he could clearly feel a significant increase in his experience points. He could also clearly sense a slight increase in attributes like speed, strength, and ultimate power. While not very noticeable, the improvement was certainly there. Report: Wild One has been confirmed eliminated. The energy reaction that eliminated Wild One was confirmed to be the other Wild One that materialized in the department store building earlier, in the Network Management and Monitoring Office. After hearing the female assistant's report, Director Yamaki closed his lighter again and said, "Killing each other? Or were those children doing it again? But none of this matters anymore. After all, whether it's the Wild One or the Digimon of those children, they will soon disappear from this world. Immediately initiate the annihilation plan and eliminate all the Wild Ones." Upon hearing Chief Yamaki's order, the two female staff members exchanged a glance, then nodded simultaneously and began to operate. Confirm activation of the annihilation plan. The Hypnos system is ready. Confirm activation. A beam of green light shot skyward from a high-rise building in the city center, and a massive vortex suddenly appeared above the city. As the ripples generated by the vortex spread across the city like ripples on the surface of water, the Digimon in the real world began to become extremely unstable. Digimon are data entities that appear in the real world, and the so-called annihilation plan of the Network Management Office is like activating a data shredder. The fluctuations generated by the Hypnos system will not affect humans, but will cause the Digimon, who are essentially data, to collapse. Because this involves data destruction, the entire city will temporarily suffer a certain degree of data paralysis during the annihilation plan, which is why it is necessary to consult with superiors. Although a brief data outage would cause some disruption and damage to the city, Director Yamaki believed that as long as all Digimon in the real world could be eliminated, it would be worth it. Wild One is being eliminated, currently numbering 31. Upon hearing the staff's report, Director Yamaki's face lit up with pride. However, he soon felt a sudden tremor in the building they were standing in. Soon after, dark clouds rolled over the entire Shinjuku sky, and the figure of a dragon-shaped Digimon suddenly appeared on the surveillance camera. "Foolish humans, how dare you dare challenge our gods? To our gods, humans are nothing but greedy and foolish creatures." The voice of the monkey-shaped Digimon atop the dragon's head was spoken, currently holding a cage containing a white Digimon. At a signal from Spirit Monkeymon, Sky Dragonman, the Digimon carrying him, simply pressed down a claw from the air, and the network management office building collapsed under the attack. Because the device was destroyed, the annihilation plan that had been halfway through was aborted. Elsewhere, Kirito's two other friends, Hirokazu and Kenta, anxiously rushed to the crowd to report, "Oh no! A strange creature has captured your lumen." Almost immediately, Psychoman, riding celestial dragonman, appeared before the crowd and taunted Seiya and the others, calling them a disgrace to Digimon for choosing to degenerate and associate with humans. Then, he fled. Due to the rampage at Borman and the mishandled execution of the annihilation plan, reality has become a mess. Simply put, the barrier between the digital world and the real world has been breached once again, and a large number of Digimon have inexplicably appeared around the world. The Cyber Administration's so-called annihilation plan not only failed to annihilate the Digimon of the real world, but instead allowed even more Digimon to intrude. Chapter 147, The Extremely Strong Complete Form. Roar. As Monkeyman and Skydramon took Illumin and flew away, a spatial rift suddenly appeared in the sky, and several Digimon flew out, recklessly attacking the city. Although the self-defense forces responded immediately and dispatched fighter jets, facing a mature Flidramon or even a fully formed Megadramon, so-called aircraft and artillery, even the most powerful firearms, could do little damage. Megadramon spread its arms like a missile pod, unleashing its ultimate attack, Extinction Attack, sending beams of light sweeping across the sky and ground, instantly engulfing the self-defense forces' armored units and fighter jets in a blaze of fire. Watching the situation spiral out of control, Director Yamaki angrily pounded the ground before him. Previously, Wild One only occasionally materialized in the real world. Due to their small numbers and weak power, they were able to control and eliminate them. And with good public relations, ordinary citizens would remain unaware of the existence of Digimon. But now the situation was different. The digital world and the real world were overlapping on a large scale. Digimon, once confined to the digital world, materialized in large numbers in the real world and wreaked havoc on everything around them. The truth was now completely out of the bag. Furthermore, compared to the frail humans, the Digimon's dangerous and powerful combat prowess was enough to put all of humanity in jeopardy. Seeing Megadramon swooping down on them, Kirito's two close friends fled in panic. However, they hadn't noticed what lay ahead, and soon realized they had become another giant. Looking up, they were met by the intimidating Seiya. As die-hard fans of the digital card game, they were naturally familiar with the perfect Machinedramon. However, since they didn't recognize Seiya, they clearly mistook him for a wild Digimon materializing from the digital world. It's well known that, with the exception of Gyarkumon and Digimon with trainers, Digimon from the digital world generally wreak havoc in the real world. Compared to Megadramon, the Machinedramon before them clearly felt far more oppressive. Just as they thought they were about to be killed, Machinedramon in front of them suddenly extended the giant sword on its right arm and unleashed a powerful electrical current. Facing Megadramon, which was swooping down on them, it cleaved its fellow perfect Digimon in two with a single blow. Hirokazu, Kenta, are you two okay? Meanwhile, Agumon and Rabbitmon also dispatched the two mature Digimon accompanying Megadramon. Kirito immediately rushed to their two friends' side. Kirito, this Machinedramon is incredibly powerful. He just took out a fellow perfect Digimon with a single blow. You better be careful. Hearing his friend's warning, Kirito's face lit with embarrassment. He then explained to his two friends, actually, this Machinedramon is one of ours too. He's Juri's partner Digimon. Hirokazu and Kenta looked at Juri in surprise, who proudly displayed her Digimon. Why? Why even Juri has found her own Digimon partner, but we still can't become tamers. That's right, we love Digimon more and understand them better. Machinedramon is my ideal Digimon. If we were looking for a tamer, I'd be the more suitable, so why was Juri chosen? Hirokazu hadn't finished his words when an angry Juri slapped his head. While she admitted she wasn't a qualified Digimon tamer yet, she had finally gained the approval of Jiramon. Hirokazu's words were clearly an attempt to steal her away. Seeing his two friends' bodies instantly turn gray and white, unable to accept the truth, Kirito smiled wryly. He knew exactly how much his two friends loved Digimon. When Hirokazu and Kenta first learned they had found Gilman, they had been envious for a long time and had long desired to find their own Digimon partners. Ruki and Kenryo were able to become tamers because they were both masters of Digimon cards. Kyren was able to find a partner Digimon because he designed Gilman himself, and Kyren himself is a die-hard fan of the Digimon card game. but Juri has now found her own partner Digimon and has become a tamer, which is something that he and his brother can't accept. Why can Juri, a cloud player, become a tamer, but they, the two brothers who are obviously die-hard fans, can't? Kyron, if you have time to talk nonsense over there, you might as well come over and help clean up those Digimon that are destroying everything. And Juri, as a tamer, you can't just stand there and watch and do nothing. Although Machinedramon is very powerful, as a tamer, we have to do our best to assist our partner Digimon when they fight. As Ruki said this, she used the card exchange to swipe several support cards for Priestman. Juri, swipe these cards of mine. They're all powerful cards from my collection, and these of mine can also boost your combat power. Hirokazu and Kenta, feeling helpless and unable to help, offered their treasured Digimon game cards with a pained expression, even without their partner Digimon. However, before Juri could swipe her cards, Seiya flapped his 6 damaged wings behind him and launched himself into the air. Kaino Sword, with a single swing of his Digialloy Greatsword, a powerful electrical current transformed into a 40-meter-long lightsaber, sweeping across the surroundings. Any Digimon caught in the blast, whether mature or perfect, were practically killed. Countless Digimon were annihilated, transforming into vast quantities of data. Seiya, now in midair, acted like a giant vacuum cleaner, absorbing all the data scattered around the city into his body. This is too strong. I feel like even though they're all perfect Digimon, Kito's Megadramon and the others are no match for Juri's Machinedramon. Seiya's display of overwhelming power was so ferocious that he decimated nearly every Digimon that flooded into the real world. Many Digimon like Avildramon and Flidramon, upon seeing Seiya's explosive power, simply turned and fled. Feeling that the stats of mature Digimon wouldn't offer much of a boost to his own, Seiya paid no attention to the fleeing Karami. After dispatching several perfect Digimon like Megadramon and Yagadramon, he degenerated into the form of Jiramon. Chapter 148 Kaguya Seiya was dug out by Orochimaru. In the world of Naruto, there's the Land of Rice, and the Sound Village. The Land of Rice is a small country located in the northern part of Konoha's sphere of influence, bordering the Land of Fire. Previously, there were no ninja villages here. However, after Orochimaru broke away from Akatsuki, he bribed the daimyo of the Land of Rice and established a current Sound Village within the country. Sound Village isn't employed by the Land of Rice, and its ninjas are primarily defectors and exiled. While Sound Village lacks a so-called cage, it's essentially ruled by Orochimaru, one of the former 3 ninjas. After being brutally defeated by Uchiha Itachi's golden binding technique within Akatsuki, Orochimaru developed a strong interest in ninja bloodline limits and gradually came to believe that only ninjas with bloodline limits could be considered gifted ninjas. As for ninjas without bloodline limits, no matter how hard they try, they'll ultimately be mediocre. Simply put, after being brutally beaten by Itachi, Orochimaru has become a devoted ninja devoted to the bloodline theory and avidly interested in ninja bloodline limits. He now spends his days in the laboratory, becoming a tech geek. After experiencing the Ninja World War and witnessing the deaths of Senju Naki and Kato Dan, Orochimaru once again felt the fragility of life. Through extensive research, he mastered his own forbidden technique, the Undying Corpse Reincarnation Technique. Undying Corpse Reincarnation involves transferring one's spirit into another's body, thereby achieving eternal life. After the Akatsuki organization was severely defeated by Itachi, Orochimaru once again considered becoming a bloodline ninja. The so-called bloodline limit is a technique that can only be inherited through blood ties through genes. Normally, it cannot be learned by anyone other than those of the same bloodline. However, this ironclad rule poses no problem for Orochimaru's Undying Corpse Reincarnation Technique. Undying Corpse Reincarnation involves replacing the body as a vessel, while bloodline and genes are inherent to the physical body, unrelated to the mind or soul. Honestly, ever since being crushed by Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru's biggest desire has been the Sharingan's Kekkei Genkei. Sadly, however, since the night of the Uchiha clan's extermination, the Uchiha clan has become depleted. While it's not as if there are no ninjas with Sharingan Kekkei, Orochimaru can no longer afford to provoke any of the surviving ones. Without a Sharingan Kekkei, Orochimaru can only find alternatives. And if there's a single place in the ninja world with the most Kekkei ninja, it's undoubtedly the Hidden Mist Village, known as the Village of Kekkei. While the 4th Mizuka Jagira's brutal policies led to a significant decline in the Hidden Mist's Kekkei ninja ranks, leading to the complete extinction of many Kekkei families, the Hidden Mist Village still holds the top spot among the 5 great ninja villages in terms of Kekkei ninja types. It's for this reason that, ever since becoming obsessed with bloodline research, Orochimaru has been visiting the hidden mist village almost every other day. He either uses his powerful charisma to ensnare the local bloodline imps to serve as backup vessels, or he digs up ancestral graves and brings back a few bodies for careful study. A deceased bloodline ninja might be little more than a memorial to others, but in Orochimaru's hands, they're completely reusable. Seiya in the Naruto world is the unfortunate individual dug out of a grave by Orochimaru and taken back for study. This world Seiya's full name is Kaguya Seiya. Indeed, the so-called Kuya clan here refers to the corpse bone lineage who constantly pull out bones and wield them as weapons. Although called Kaguya, she shares the same name as the ancestor of chakra, Kaguya Otsutsuki. The two are not actually closely related. Because Kaguya Otsutsuki is from the Otsutsuki clan, and the Kaguya clan is from the Kaguya clan. While Kaguya Otsutsuki can use the Shikatsu vein, that doesn't really mean anything. Uchiha Madara, who possessed the power of the six paths, could use various bloodlines, let alone Kaguya Otsutsuki, the ancestor of chakra, who possessed a higher level of power. The reason Kaguya Otsutsuki used the Shikatsu vein so frequently in battle can only be explained by the fact that it is a very powerful bloodline. It's also for this reason that Seiya, a ninja from the Kaguya clan who died in battle, was dug up by Orochimaru and resurrected through the impure world reincarnation. A resurrected ninja cannot serve as a vessel for Orochimaru's non-corpse reincarnation. However, Seiya's resurrection stems from the fact that during his last visit to the hidden mist village, in addition to digging up Seiya, Orochimaru also brought back a young Kaguya clan member. The other person's name was Kaguya Kimimaro, the only surviving member of the Kaguya clan. He was also a gifted bloodline ninja who had awakened his Shikatsu Maru at a young age. Orochimaru had already been training Kimimaro as a backup vessel, but even as a vessel, Kimimaro's bloodline abilities needed further development and training. Despite being one of the three ninjas, Orochimaru's understanding of various techniques was undoubtedly among the best in the ninja world. However, he was unable to provide any assistance to Kimimaro regarding the Shikatsu Maru bloodline. It was for this reason that Seiya, who was supposed to have died, was resurrected through the impure world reincarnation. No one understood the mastery of bloodline abilities better than a ninja from his own clan, and so, ever since Seiya's resurrection, he had served as Kimimaro's teacher. The caster of the impure world reincarnation technique was able to forcibly control ninjas imbued with a cursed seal. However, to allow Seiya to better teach Kimimaro, Orochimaru had not completely erased Seiya's consciousness or even overly controlled his actions. Seiya knew the seals for impure world reincarnation. After all, he had watched Naruto and remembered Madara's seal-breaking techniques. However, even with this knowledge, Seiya chose not to act rashly. His previous strength, while not exactly shabby, was still far behind that of a ninja luminary like Orochimaru. Impure world reincarnation was a forbidden technique Orochimaru had learned from the Naruto scrolls and was also one of his trump cards. What would Orochimaru, a scientific enthusiast, do if he knew that he, a ninja reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation, possessed the ability to break free? He would undoubtedly be captured and sliced up for research. While impure world reincarnation ninjas are immortal, they are vulnerable to various seals. With his previous strength, Seiya's chances of escaping a Togakure after Orochimaru realized something was amiss. But now the situation was different. Seiya's cheat had arrived. After returning from the pure white space, Seiya could clearly feel that after sharing the power of Seiya from multiple worlds, both his physical fitness and chakra capacity had been greatly improved. Chapter 149, Do users of corpse bone vein generally not live long? In the land of rice, a Togakure, Orochimaru's training grounds, Karamatsu Dance, a young man with snow-white hair and a pair of red moles above his eyebrows spun forward at high speed, his body suddenly sprouting bone spurs like a hedgehog, charging towards Seiya. However, facing this attack, another young man in front of him, also with a pair of red moles on his forehead, also wielded a bone sword, and simply raised it upwards. With a flash of blue sword light exploding in the air, Kimimaro, who was using the Karamatsu dance to strike Seiya, instantly shattered all the bones on his body, sending him flying over 10 meters. Kimimaro, you're still too young, but in terms of your Shikatsuki bloodline, you're undoubtedly a prodigy of the Hyuga clan. After all, even during the Hyuga clan's heyday, only a handful of members of your age could master the Shikatsuki to this degree. However, Your application of the Shikatsuki is too superficial, and you rely too heavily on the bloodline's power. A bloodline, no matter how powerful, is merely a means to assist a ninja in combat. Both your application and your own combat prowess are woefully inadequate. Hearing Seiya's blunt criticism, Kimimaro, battered and bruised, struggled to his feet. Though badly beaten, he humbly nodded, "Brother Seiya, thank you for your guidance. I will become even stronger. Only then can I help Lord Orochimaru." Hearing Kimimaro's words, Seiya remained non-committal, though he had no idea how Orochimaru, a man who spent his days washing his face with his tongue, possessed such charisma that he could command the unwavering devotion of so many. But it's also true that if it weren't for Orochimaru, Kimimaro would have been dead long ago. Kimimaro was a genius of the Hyuga clan, but he wasn't treated as a genius should. Because he awakened his corpse vein, he was used as a human shield and weapon by his clan from a young age and imprisoned. Kimimaro's address to Seiya as big brother was not wrong, as he was indeed Kimimaro's elder brother in terms of seniority. Furthermore, while the rest of the Hyuga clan viewed him as a monster, only Seiya treated him with kindness, leading Kimimaro to always hold him in high esteem. The Hyuga clan was destroyed by a rebellion, and in the attack on the Hidden Mist village, the entire clan was annihilated. Only Kimimaro, who participated due to illness, survived. Seiya's death, however, wasn't due to the battle against the Hidden Mist village, but rather to congenital disease in the family. That's right, just like his current situation. Throughout history, every member of the Hyuga clan who awakened the corpse vein would inherit this congenital disease. The corpse vein is both a powerful force and a life-threatening curse for the Hyuga clan. If it weren't for meeting Lord Orochimaru, he would have likely died alone in prison. It was also because he was raised by Orochimaru, and because he felt a warmth from him that he couldn't find from his own clan members, that Kimimaro admired Orochimaru so deeply and was completely devoted to him. Kimimaro, that's all for today's class. We'll meet again. Hearing Seiya's words, Kimimaro was a little confused, but thinking that Seiya meant to see him tomorrow, he didn't pay much attention to it and simply nodded to show his understanding. After watching Seiya leave, Kimimaro looked at his still trembling arms and muttered to himself, "Why do I feel like Seiya-sama is even stronger today? It seems my training is still insufficient. At my current level, I'm simply unworthy of becoming Orochimaru-sama's new vessel." As he pondered this, Kimimaro turned to the Otonin and, facing their fearful gazes, said, "Kidamaru, Sakuan, Teiuaya, and Jirabo, it's your turn to fight me now. You may use the power of the curse seal, but I will show no mercy. If you're not determined to kill me, I can't guarantee what will become of you." Hearing Kimimaro's words, the Otonin's faces instantly turned bitter. No one knew Kimimaro's strength better than them, for they had often been tortured to death by him. As the elite of the Sound Village, using the power of the cursed seal granted by Orochimaru, the four of them are undoubtedly at the level of an elite Chunin. However, even with this combined strength, facing Kimimaro, they would still be completely defeated by his normal self. Despite Kimimaro's previous disparagement by Seiya, the Sound Four are well aware that Kimimaro is simply no match for Seiya. Even without the power of the cursed seal, Kimimaro possesses strength approaching that of a special Jonin. With the power of the cursed seal, his strength rivals that of the Jonin of the 5 great ninja villages. In the eyes of the Sound Four, Kaguya Seiya has always been a Jonin, and were it not for Orochimaru's status as the practitioner of the impure world reincarnation technique, he would have submitted to them. After a fierce battle, the Otten Four finally lay on the ground in a mess. Kimimaro, who slowly breathed a sigh of relief, instantly regained his lost confidence after retracting the 2 bone spurs in his hands. Yes, as a survivor of the Kaguya clan, he was still very powerful. The reason why he was unable to fight back in front of his elder brother, Seiya, was simply because the other party was too strong. However, the next day, when Kimimaro wanted to find Seiya for special training again, he was shocked to find that Seiya's room was empty. On the table in Seiya's room, there were also letters that Seiya left for Orochimaru and Kimimaro respectively. Kimimaro opened the letter addressed to him, which contained only one sentence: "You cannot become Orochimaru's vessel, because the bloodline he desires most is the Sharingan, not the Kaguya clan's corpus venom. Rather than being his vessel for 3 years, it would be better to find a solution to your own illness, so that you can remain by his side and serve him." Kimimaro was completely devoted to Orochimaru, and it was unlikely that Seiya would be able to abduct him. Because they were of the same clan, Seiya could only try to help Kimimaro change his mindset and avoid a meaningless death. At the age of 15, Kimimaro had already reached the level of a Jonin, even able to team up with Orochimaru to kill the fourth Kazekage. He possessed immense potential, but Seiya considered it a pity that he had died like that. Chapter 150 Orochimaru, my impure world reincarnation has been cancelled. Kimimaro didn't dare to examine Seiya's letter without permission, so he quickly informed Orochimaru of the letter and Seiya's departure. Initially, upon learning of Seiya's escape from Atagakure, Orochimaru had expressed disapproval. However, when Kimimaro attempted to control Seiya using the cursed seal of impure world reincarnation, Orochimaru's confident expression froze. The impure world reincarnation technique implants a cursed seal upon the resurrection of the deceased, facilitating control. But Orochimaru had just discovered that he had lost control of Seiya. No, he couldn't even tell Seiya's exact location. Where's the letter he left me? Seiya's ability to detach from the impure world reincarnation technique had shocked Orochimaru, and he became curious about what message Seiya had left for him. When Orochimaru took the letter from Kimimaro and read the message, he was stunned. I have already undone the impure world reincarnation technique, so there's no need to waste your efforts trying to control me. Since you've finally given me a new life, I'll share some useful information. Sasuke Uchiha, the last remaining member of the Uchiha clan, has awakened his Sharingan's Kekkei Genkei. As Itachi Uchiha's younger brother, you should be well aware of Sasuke Uchiha's talent and potential. After reading Seiya's letter, Orochimaru's eyes darkened once again. After washing his face with his tongue, he quickly rolled up the letter and swallowed it whole. Kimimaro, what kind of person is this Kaguya Seiya? Honestly, Seiya's presence had previously failed to capture Orochimaru's attention. Although Seiya's strength has reached the level of an elite Jonin, even such a so-called elite Jonin is just a dish in the eyes of Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas. During the Ninja World War, countless Jonin from various villages died at his hands. Although Seiya holds the Shikatsu bloodline, in Orochimaru's eyes, he is nothing more than that. It is precisely because he does not take Seiya seriously that the impure world reincarnation Seiya has great autonomy in the Sound Village. Because in Orochimaru's eyes, Seiya's value is far less than that of Kimimaro. But now the situation is different. He has been able to break free from the control of the impure world reincarnation and, while staying in the Sound Village, he is also able to obtain information from Konoha. This is enough to prove that Seiya is not as simple as he appears. As a fellow clansman, Kimimaro undoubtedly knew Seiya best. However, after a moment's hesitation, Orochimaru could only stammer, "Brother Seiya was once the pride of the Hyuga clan. Although he had awakened his corpse vein, he was treated equally by his clan. I've even heard that he had a good relationship with the fourth Mizukage and secured numerous benefits for the Hyuga clan within the village. Is that all?" Orochimaru was disappointed by Kimimaro's response. If that were the case, then Seiya was merely a genius of the Hyuga clan, an elite Jonin of the Hidden Mist village. But Orochimaru clearly didn't believe such a truth. How could a mere elite Jonin of the Hidden Mist village have the power to break the control of impure world reincarnation? This was a forbidden technique developed by the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama. Kabuto, I'll trouble you to visit Konoha this time. If possible, see if you can gather some information on Kaguya Seiya. Orochimaru wasn't surprised that Kimimaro didn't know much about Seiya. After all, Kimimaro was still young when Seiya rose to fame. Furthermore, Orochimaru believed that Kaguya Seiya, despite being a Kirigakure ninja, might have some hidden connections to Konoha. Whether it was forbidden techniques like impure world reincarnation or the affairs of the Uchiha clan, few ninja in Kirigakure, let alone Konoha itself, knew the true story. Konoha's higher-ranking officials were full of shady dealings, and colluding with ninja from other villages sounded very much like someone's style. Meanwhile, Seiya, having already left the Sound Village, clearly hadn't anticipated that the little information he'd left behind would spark such a spark in Orochimaru's mind, leading him to suspect a certain poor Nagakage. Of course, Nagakage Danzo had been taking the blame for this for a long time, so even if he knew, he probably wouldn't have taken it too seriously. After leaving Atagakure, Seiya's primary goal was to escape the state of impure world reincarnation. As everyone knows, in the Naruto world, impure world reincarnation isn't a debuff, it's more of a buff. This is because the resurrected ninja not only possesses immortality, but is also immune to illusions and possesses unlimited mana. However, impure world reincarnation isn't without its drawbacks. Because the resurrected ninja's soul is summoned, it consumes a significant amount of soul energy. Furthermore, if the caster dies, the resurrected ninja will also be somewhat affected. Of course, Seiya has no doubt about Orochimaru's tenacious vitality, but if possible, Seiya wants to escape the state of being unable to control his own life and death as soon as possible. There are only two ways to fully recover from impure world reincarnation: yin-yang release, a technique known as the Six Paths Power, or the Outer Path Samsara reincarnation technique. Yin-yang release is extremely advanced, requiring considerable skill even for a late-stage Naruto player, making it unrealistic to master at this stage. He could come up with a slightly more reliable Rinnegan technique, but with his current strength, if he were to fight Nagato to the death, his chances of winning wouldn't be very high. Even if he defeated Nagato, getting him to sacrifice his life to use the Rinnegan on him would be nearly impossible. Seiya admitted he lacked the prince's verbal skills, so rather than resorting to verbal persuasion, it would be more reliable to use Genjutsu directly on Nagato, or to dig out his Rinnegan and have someone else use the Rinnegan on him. Anyone who's seen Naruto knows that Naruto is also known as the Eye Ninja, and their eye bloodlines are plug-and-play. Nagato's Rinnegan also belonged to Uchiha Madara, and the Guy Path Rinnegan wasn't the only one to use it. Uchiha Obito also used it. This shows that, aside from the crucial Rinnegan, the requirements for using the Guy Path Rinnegan aren't overly restrictive. Probably all you need is the blood of both Ashura and Indra. To put it simply, you need both Hashirama cells and the Sharingan bloodline. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.